calendar link. So there's only a certain amount of. Sorry, 1 second. I'll recap that in a minute. Hello. Okay, I'm right in the middle of recording the podcast with the Americans
and the Dutch. Don't forget the Dutch.
Yes, and the Dutch. Sorry about that, chaps and ladies. What was I talking about?
I will not edit out Malcolm's phone call, though.
That's our cold open.
Putting the broccoli on. All right, darling.
You're muted, Doug.
What? I am muted. The platform, the posse.
And we are not live.
I think it's time we move on.
To me.
No, the other TJ.
Oh, gee. Why don't you how about that?
Okay, so it's time to take a look at our very, I had no idea where that was going. That was just lots of berries. And last but certainly not, sorry, caught me with a biscuit in my mouth. Grant, what grabbed your attention?
Oh, that cookie you're eating, for one.
Physical stuff. Sorry, I threw myself then.
Let's get physical.
Damn it, I was pulling that up on my phone, right? Right when you said that, Doug.
Oh, man. Yeehaw! Welcome in, everybody, to episode 64 of the Plastic Posse Podcast. That's for you, Doug. It's good to see all of my co-hosts again with me. We're excited to discuss our favorite hobby, scale modeling, and share that with you guys. So let's just kind of do our traditional around the horn. Let's start in the UK with our good friend, Jensen Taylor. Jensen, what have you been up to, my friend?
I have been working on a few different YouTube projects. That's all I'll say about that in a minute. Model-wise, not actually working on anything. I recently went into my local Warhammer shop, which we all know is kind of dangerous. I've kind of fallen in love with it. I really want to start getting into it. I always said I like the figures, but never wanted to play it. But I went in, the guy did a whole demo game for us and everything. I was just like, you know what, this is kind of fun. And what I think helped is the guy who worked there. He really helped create the atmosphere, the story. He was really enthusiastic. He was a proper nerd. And it was just fun. And I was just like, yeah, you know what? If playing the game can be as fun as this guy's making it, I really want to get into this. So no, I've just not really been modeling. I've just been looking at a lot of Warhammer stuff and seeing where I can go with that. I know it's not the cheapest in the world, but then again, nothing in this hobby is.
Yeah, that's for sure. Let's go to Doug. Doug, how have you been and what have you been up to?
I've been very well, thank you. I've been mostly working on my Tamiya 48 scale Tiger Late. Got the paint on it. I put a few decals on it. I'm ready to start doing a little more chipping on it and some weathering. It's been a lot of fun. Just, man, when I became a tank guy, I don't know, but here I am. And I've actually been filling out my stash a little more. I'm definitely buying faster than I can build right now. That's okay. The rest of the year is going to have a lot of armor and a little Star Wars, couple airplanes, but I've got plans and it's been a good time.
JB, I think you've been pretty busy, but how have you been and what's been on your bench?
Yeah, I have been busy. I received that Panzer IV 70A from you not too long ago and jumped right into it. So last weekend was able to slam it together, built it in a day. So I think I started at 8 a.m, ended at 9, and I had breaks throughout the day, but I watched 4 James Bond films. So that's how long it takes to build the model. And then I was able to prime it the end of last weekend, base coat one evening. And then last night was able to get the tritonal scheme done with the Hinterhalt dots on it. So came out a little bit better than I expected. I had some questions around the brown I was going to use. And for the colors, for those interested, I posted a lot online. But I used Tamiya's LP line, the lacquer paint line, thin with Mr. Coloring leveling thinner. And I used dark yellow 2, dark green 2, which is their new Wehrmacht colors, World War II German colors. And then instead of the red brown 2, which I find to be too mustardy, I actually used linoleum deck tan, and it looks like a rich brown, but after painting it and even giving a filter of the Dunkelgelb, it's turned into a nice red brown color, and I'm pretty satisfied with it. So I will likely paint the details tonight, such as the tools and spare road wheels and whatnot. And then I will also mask the Balkenkreuz. One other thing I'll mention with this kit is it is the first kit Tamiya has included the Tetra fire extinguisher label. So a nice little detail that's often neglected by manufacturers. So overall, absolutely fantastic kit. Super grateful that Tamiya let me take this one around the yard before it hits the mass market, and I'm super stoked. So I'll be sharing more pictures online. I posted the first picture on Patreon today that showed it painted. By the time this episode drops, the full article should be on Patreon, which covers the construction, painting, and weathering. So stay tuned for that. It's absolutely fantastic.
Awesome. Well, saw those pictures today, and obviously it's looking fantastic. You are the master of the tritone camo, and you are certainly not disappointing. Let's go to our good friend in California, Grant. Tell us how you've been and what you've been up to.
I'm doing good. A little tired. I left Sunday night last week, flew to Seoul, South Korea for work. So lost 17 hours, left Thursday morning, Seoul, South Korea time, and arrived Wednesday night back in California. So I didn't sleep hardly at all because just messed my whole sleeping pattern up. But I did get some work done. I did get some figure painting done for some stuff I'm taking with me to Seattle. Other than that, I've been watching TJ's builds and everybody else's, and JB's beautiful work on that Panzer for the 70. And it's just, and I'm starting to see the M8s come out on, people are building those, the 148 scale M8s, and just getting ready to get some free time here and start building a little bit myself.
Awesome. Well, we'll save TJ, save the best for last, but I haven't been doing much as far as my bench. I've been doing a lot, mostly getting some podcasts done a little bit early. We had some shows in the schedule and all of that, but I'm still working on a lot of 3D printing stuff. I have a lot of new STLs and feeling pretty confident now. I'm starting to get a lot more successes than failures, and that's been pretty great. Well, let's wrap things up with TJ. TJ, how have you been, and what's been going on your bench?
I've been doing good. I can't complain, I suppose. As far as the bench goes, I've been pretty busy, surprisingly. I don't know if the listeners know this, but this is only a week after we record our last one, but they won't hear this for quite a while. So hopefully by the time this comes out, some of the stuff I'm talking about will be done. I don't know if that's going to be the case or not, but yeah, for some reason, I got the idea that I wanted to build my HAFS Goblin. It's a resin kit, a garage kit from Japan. A Goblin is a machining Krieger thing. It's essentially a Jerry combined with an SAFS in some sort of unholy abomination. It is rather bulbous, and it has a very distinct look that is kind of hard to miss. It's a really cool kit. If anyone's built Japanese garage resin kits, their casting is generally exquisite. This one is no different. There was a couple flaws I had to fix, and of course after I primed and painted it, I found more, but I'm probably just going to leave those. Whatever. Yeah, I went with a desert pink and blue black camo with kind of like a aqua blue flash color. It's I just put the decals on it today, so that's been really fun. I'm probably going to start weathering it this weekend. I want to finish it by the time I go to ODO, which is 2 weeks from this recording. By the time this comes out, that had passed, so hopefully it goes. And then, because that wasn't enough, I also decided to get back on the Machining Krieger Nutcracker, which is a behemoth of a kit. It's in 35th scale. I might have talked about it before, but it is massive. It's so big. It's probably one of the biggest kits I have, just plastic size-wise. It's large. It was olive drab for a long, long time. I was kind of hemming and hawing with what to do. While I was in North Carolina last week, I was working on the TACA Mark V British tank, and there's an Estonian camouflage scheme in there, and it's kind of like almost like a splinter camo with a kind of dark color, a green and like a tan color. So I was like, I'm going to do that. So I did. Turned out pretty cool. It was a lot of masking. It wasn't fun. And yeah, and then I put a camo or a ID band on it. I glossed it, and after I'm done with this, I'm probably going to slap some decals on it. And I think I'm going to whitewash it. I've kind of been bouncing back and forth about that, asking some of my friends, and then I also messaged Brian Krieger earlier this afternoon or this evening and showed him a picture of it, and he's like, "Oh, that's a really cool camo scheme." I'm like, "Yeah, I'm thinking about whitewashing it." He's like, "Yeah, you should do like really warm whitewash." I'm like, "Man, to read my mind, that's exactly what I wanted to do." So that might have sealed the deal for that. So yeah, that's what I got going on. Sorry, I kind of rambling on there for a minute.
No, that's great. And that Nut Rocker, if people haven't seen that yet, check that out. You can see that either on Orion Paintworks, which is TJ's Facebook page, or over on the Plastic Posse.
By the time this is out, I'm sure I have posted those pictures, but I take a lot of pictures as I build and paint just because I like to kind of see how it looks. So the picture that you guys have all seen, I probably won't post because it was just the initial camo. I like to take a picture with like everything done before, like at the end of each step. So with the camo painting, and I had other stuff to do that I got to photograph, and then so on and so forth. But yeah.
Excellent. Well, I've got a couple things that I wanted to go through before we get into our first discussion topic. So the first one I wanted to talk about is the Musaru Cup update. John, I think that one got moved aside for the Jagdpanzer. Any plans for that? And what are you thinking as far as timeline?
Yeah, so it did get moved to the side for the Jagdpanzer, or I should say the Panzer 470A to be technically correct. But yes, it got moved to the side. Still a beautiful little kit. The full intent of making the deadline, I don't think it's going to be a problem. I still am going to go with the all natural metal. So I'll be doing LP11 on it with invasion stripes. And I actually bought some other shades of Tamiya, like gunmetal and steel, yesterday from the hobby shop. So I will be getting back on that. I think this weekend I'll make some significant progress with it, because I'll be at that stage with the 70A where I can do a step, need to let it sit for a few hours. And with those few hour breaks, I can get back to the Musaru. And hopefully, fingers crossed, by the time this episode drops, it will be at least base coated and the beginning of decals, because the interior is painted right now. One of the things, don't tell anyone, I'm probably going to take it. I'm probably not going to go to the full effort on the landing gear bay. So I've done some research. I've seen books, Spencer Pollard, I'm going to use him, but like we say, never use a model as a reference. Well, he paints all of his landing gear bays, zinc chromate. And I think I might do that. There's some call outs where you tape off these super tight strips, and I'm never going to see it. And I'm okay leaving it just like zinc chromate yellow, or I'm probably wrong with the color, but armor guy, give me a pass. But anyway, it's a gorgeous little kit. I think it's beautiful. The decals are super nice. What's great is they give you 2 sets for the cockpit. And I think that's a really nice thing, because they're super small, not delicate, really well done. But it's nice. So if I ever do another Mustang, I have a full set of interior placards, which really makes this kit sing. But bottom line, I'll be back on it, and then I'll be doing a unique base for it, and hopefully getting it done well within the deadline, and then sending pictures over to the folks up in Canada. Still disappointed we can't make the show. It's just unfortunate it fell on the same weekend as the local club here. I feel like half of the modeling community will be at my house at some point or another during that weekend. But
guaranteed.
Yeah. Long story short, it's on the back burner, but it's lukewarm, and it'll be put up to full blast soon.
Yeah. Awesome. I also wanted to kind of bring up, it just seems like every week almost we're getting like these unbelievable announcements and these unbelievable new releases and everything. And wanted to highlight Gecko models. We had a few weeks ago, they released a brand new 1/16 scale Panzer II. It's stunning. Andy's got a video where he's building that. And then this last week, as of this recording, they come out with a brand new 1/35 scale, really esoteric subject, the Canadian Ram Mark II Kangaroo. And it isn't just a Canadian specific armor vehicle. It's got a full interior. Yeah, Jackson, I said full interior on that. You got the engine, everything. And man, it's just, I don't know if there's any new releases that you guys are really, really jazzed about, but Canadian armor modelers have to just be incredibly excited. But I mean, just about anything we could really ask for as modelers, if we wait long enough, we're seeing not only kits of it, but incredible quality kits of it.
Yeah, I agree. That's a nice one to have. I've waited for that one for a long time. Aren't they also releasing the flamethrower version of the same vehicle?
Yeah, I think so.
I think so. So that's another great kit to add. For me, I'm really waiting for that Tamiya 148 M8 because I love that little vehicle. It's just kind of a cool little short, stubby nosed howitzer, I think that's really kind of cool. But there's so much that's happening right now in the hobby. With everything, with everybody pushing out. You got Tamiya's pushing stuff out. You just had the show in Nuremberg where everything was dumping and everybody was trying to keep up with how much everybody was putting out. I mean, the new Tamiya German figures are going to be great. It's going to be nice. So that's the one I'm waiting for is that M8.
What about the rest of you guys? You have anything you're excited about?
Yeah, the Ram. You already mentioned it. I don't think it's a secret that I'm a Sherman aficionado, and the Ram is awesome. Yeah, it's pretty cool to see that in plastic. But I think the only way to get it now is a resin conversion, which is, from what I understand, very nice. But I'll take plastic 10 times out of 10.
Yeah, pretty much what's been said. Like there wasn't much really taking my attention, and then that was announced, and it kind of goes back to what we said in last episode. We're getting to a point now where companies aren't afraid of doing these more obscure, not heard of subjects. They'll take the gamble, and most of the time, like this one, they're really well received. So as of recent, yeah, that announcement is the one that caught my attention.
I'm sure I'll end up with one. I mean, how fun would it have been to have one of those on the table in our group build last year?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, for me, I'm going to be cheeky and say the thing I'm looking forward to is actually sitting on my bench. So sorry, Jensen, just going to rub some salt in the wound on that one. But no, I was really excited for the Panzer 470A, and then it ended up here. So I'm going to buy another one when it comes out, though.
It's not necessarily a new announcement because it's been announced for a long time. And some of you have even seen one in person. They wouldn't let you, Hobbs wouldn't let you go home with it. But the TACOM Fire Scout, I don't know when it's coming out. It's not soon enough. I want that little thing so bad. I don't know what it is about those, but I love them. and I want to build one. And I think you get 2 in the box. I want it so bad.
Yeah, you get 2 of them. They're really, really nice.
They're out now. I've got one actually. So I'll send you one. So,
I didn't know where did you get it from? Because I've been looking for them.
Where did I get it from? I think I got it from HLK or Hobby.
Oh, well, that's why. Yeah. I don't think they're out in.
They're
America.
not stateside yet.
Yeah, not stateside yet. No, the Apaches just came out though. I saw those on Andy's page today.
Yeah. Those are sweet.
Yeah.
I'll be getting one of those too.
Oh, the longbow with the big radar dome on top. Oh,
that's what I'm going to get too.
That's going to be a fun kit. Yeah, the Firefox that's a beautiful kit. It's 1/35th scale. It's just a magical little cool little helicopter.
Yeah, when we were over Hobbs's place, Jackson tried to get me to distract Hobbs, but I wanted to leave with my life, so I pleaded ignorance and didn't test the big man. But no, that's it. It is a really cool kit. And you're right, TJ. It does come with 2, and there's 2 little different variants in it, and it's a rather large aircraft as well for 35th scale. So it's cool.
And then before we kind of wrap this segment up, I just wanted to highlight that our special guest for this episode will be Stephan and also Meranda from Models for Veterans in the Netherlands and Malcolm Childs from Models for Heroes. We sit down and we visit on how the 3 of them kind of met and how the 2 respective organizations help people and how we can help them. And of course, that all leads into the event that's coming up very, very soon from March 10th through the 12th that we'll be a part of. And we'll talk about that in the show section. In addition to our main interview with Scale Models for Veterans and also Models for Heroes, we also have a bonus interview with Zach Pease, one of our deputy marshals in the Outriders. And then one last item of business. This hobby is full of amazing people, and I'm just going to shout some of them out. We just talked about Malcolm, James Skiffins, Meranda, and Stephan, what they do for people with their organization. We love Models for Heroes. We love what they do. They're incredible. It's their passion. And so tip of the hat to them. I want to give a shout out to the Sam Dwyer. Sam came over to Nats last year in Omaha and bought a copy of his King Tiger book. And unfortunately, the COVID got me and I wasn't able to ever get him to sign it. And he not only sent me a copy of his book, but he sent me his last copy signed. And he's just a great friend. He's a great person. Everybody out there that's met him knows the kind of person that he is. And so thank you very much, Sam. I wanted also to shout out Mr. Steve Munsell. Again, the nicest guy in this hobby. He sent our good friend Doug a massive box of resin for some projects that Doug has, and threw in a couple of bags of resin for my Takom 1/16 scale Jeep and also my Sherman. And that's just Steve. He just you can't say enough nice about him. And then kind of the last thing today, I was as of this recording, I set up kind of a Model for Heroes donation for my birthday like you do on Facebook. Hadn't even had a chance to publicize it or anything else like that. And I just got all these people, sending in donations to Models for Heroes. It's a cause that you guys have heard me just go on and on about. It's near and dear to all of our hearts. Man, just blew me out of the water, exceeded my goal exponentially before I even really get a chance to go live with it, including one of you fine gentlemen here, which I will leave nameless to protect you. But just unbelievable people in this hobby, always doing good. And just wanted all of those people to know it's very much appreciated. All right, well, let's roll into our first discussion point. This is something I've been thinking about a lot, and it's kind of the first of the year. We're thinking about sort of planning our year out and what we want to do. And so, my question for my co-host is, if there were just one thing that you could change about your modeling, what would it be? You could add one new skill. You could overcome one thing that you traditionally struggle with. Maybe become willing where you haven't been in the past to try a new genre or a new technique, any one specific thing. And so I'm going to start with Grant on this one. Grant, if there's just one thing that you could change about your modeling, what would it be?
First, if you didn't mention this, but time. I wish I had more time to do some stuff. I think all of us is pretty much in the same boat. The time that I would like to work on my stuff is, for me, it's relaxing, like most of us. And it's just some time where I could turn off my brain and not worry about everything else. And if I had more of that, I think that would be my priority. Now, skills wise, I wish, and I'm trying to find the nerve to build bigger or paint larger figures, 75 millimeter scale, more 1/16 scale, stuff like that. That's what I want to do. But, there's always that little hang up. I love painting smaller stuff, and it's for some reason. But when I start going bigger a little bit, I get scared and I kind of tense up and back away from it a little bit. But if there's one thing I could do, that would be it. Retire.
Awesome. No, that's really good. And I agree with that 100%. Let's move over to TJ. TJ, what would one thing be that you could change about your modeling?
Man, I was hoping you wouldn't go with me next. That's a hard question. That's like a really hard question. I mean, other than just like be better, because I always want to do that. But I guess if I had to pick one thing, I don't know if this is really a thing, but like I have a habit of like missing stuff. No matter how hard I feel like I give everything a once over before I prime or even before I paint, like I always miss something. Like always. And most of the time I just roll with it and don't care. But yeah, if I could not do that anymore, that would be great. I don't know how to do that or I would already be doing it. But yeah, I don't know. That's the best I can come up with.
No, I think that's really good. JB, what do you think? What would be one thing that if you could change it, you would?
I think I got to say I will change. One of the things I do want to do is start painting figures more. And I really believe it's probably taking the TJ approach and concentrating a lot on it and neglecting the other things, because I can definitely see the evolution of his work. And I really admire the talent that I think he's unlocked with the copious amounts of busts. And that's something I really want to get into, is figure painting, because all of these tanks need somebody to command them. And I also have some busts and 3D prints that I'd love to be able to paint in a semi-decent manner as well. So that's something I need to work on. I feel like it's always one of those New Year resolutions, but hopefully this year I can chip away at it. And then I'll be honest, I'll take two. One of the other things I want to do is get better at telling a story with a model. I do love myself a good tank on a plank, but I would like to take more of the Martin approach with a, dare I say, mini vignette figure and kind of just tell a little snapshot in time. I find it a little bit, it's more interesting, and sometimes it's not. And maybe I'll just go on a little tangent here. I love the little scenes that are created, but I can also appreciate a very well done vehicle on a plank. And I look at it from a very artistic perspective where the base serves as a frame and the tank is unobscured and just really crisp on. It could be a white base that TJ's used before. It could be a black one. It could be, a dark mahogany, but I do appreciate the tank on a plank from time to time. I think if the model is done extremely well, there's a nice nameplate. It is a very crisp, almost art gallery type of approach. And I can appreciate that too. I know that's a tangent, but getting back, figure in vignette diorama style would be great.
Yeah, I agree with that. I think even a tank on a plank, as we're kind of calling it, I think it just gives the presentation of the model just a lot more than just doing the tank itself. And we've talked about with figures before, a well executed figure can really elevate a build and really gives it a sense of scale. So I think those are excellent ideas. Jensen, what do you think, my friend? I mean, if there was one thing that you could change or add to your repertoire, what would it be?
So difficult. So for me, it'd be something I'd change and I'd like to remove from my own psyche. This is going to sound like the absolute nonsense you'd say in a job interview, but I care too much. And I hate saying that. It sounds so stupid. But when I come to build models or do literally anything at the bench, I find that I care too much about how it looks or how I'm building it or the finish or how I'm painting it. It's like kind of really missed the days where I was a beginner in the hobby because things were just so much innocent. I just enjoyed it for what it was. I didn't care if things were perfect or, oh, there's a slight join line there or that's not aligned. I didn't care back then. And it's probably when I had the most fun. Now I find myself caring too much, and it's not that it removes the enjoyment out of it, but I worry so much about things kind of being right that I don't model enough because I'm too busy worrying. Again, it kind of sounds really stupid and a little bit self-righteous to say I worry so much about my own work, but it's a mental hiccup. Obviously you can't help yourself thinking that way. Just like you can't control how you feel. That's just one of the many things I would like to remove from my modeling thing, because it definitely holds me back from producing more work.
So do you think when you say you care too much, do you think that you're just sort of going down the rabbit hole of, getting afraid to try something because you might mess it up? Or is it just when
something me and Zach have spoke about a lot? We just at the minute we have this thing where we're just thinking about the project before we started the project. So we're kind of anticipating mistakes before they've even happened, which is just destroying the confidence of the build anyway. Rather than just getting on with it and kind of probably enjoying the build for what it is, we're maybe looking for mistakes that aren't there because we want things to be right. It's just that textbook overthinker type mentality, which I'd like to get rid of it. I would love to open just a model kit, do it, and not care how it looks is a strong way of putting it, but just be happy with what I've produced.
Well, that makes sense. And I think if you find the answer to that, you could definitely make your fortune selling.
Oh, I can make a few quid.
Selling self-help books and everything like that. Doug, what do you think about this? I'm interested in your thoughts. What would, one thing that you would like to change or maybe add to your skill set?
Well, I would go along with what JB said. Figures, yes, that's a big thing. But the thing that I really want to move into, and I'm not even good at a tank on a plank. Bases in me, I've never really done. Other than the basic bases that like a Star Wars kit comes with automatically, I don't do bases. I've started a couple of things that I'm going to keep working on that are going to be bases for something, but I've never finished one. I don't really know what I'm doing other than the real basic model train layout stuff that I tried 20 years ago. I'm not a base guy, but I love them. As a matter of fact, I'm going to talk about one in a little while. And that's something that I'd love to get good at, where you can mix the different types of soils and plants and trees, shrubs, anything to make it look like it all belongs together. And at the same time, it looks real. I mean, I've seen some guys do it, and that's something I'd love to add. And it doesn't have to be a big diorama. As a matter of fact, I think a vignette size is probably perfect for what I like to do.
I think that's a really good skill to add. And I agree with you. I think it really kind of takes your modeling to a different place. I'd also like to get much better at that. I think for me, what I'm going to say is I'd like to be more efficient. TJ and JB especially are really, really good at being able to produce high quality results in a short amount of time. And whether it's a slammer build or whatever that you want to call it, but it's something that I really admire because, I move at such a slow pace. I don't have a lot of time to begin with. And so if I was able to be more efficient when I was at the bench and get more accomplished, I think, I could, obviously be more productive, but, get more projects moved through. And I think, as we talked about in our last episode, I think when we're being productive and we're finishing projects, I think that, makes us all better modelers. I think it's kind of cyclical, the more you do, the better you get, the more confident you feel, blah, 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 blah. But yeah, that would be mine, is trying to be more efficient, trying to find some speed, but maybe, hopefully without cutting too many corners.
Can I add one, Scott? Can I do another one?
Absolutely.
I would like to add to my repertoire JB's 3-tone camouflage skills.
Absolutely.
Oh yeah.
When I come over to his house in March, I'm just gonna constantly bump up against him, and hopefully maybe some of that will just physically rub off on me.
Pin him up against the wall. Tell me the secret. Tell me the secret.
Can I add one as well?
Well, I think,
no, you can't. You're not allowed.
I think the one you're going to say is you're going to try and work on your evasion skills so TJ doesn't get a hold of you and spin you around. But
I would just love TJ's world-class figure painting skills and his ungodly ability to blend acrylics, which only he can do. I don't know how he does it. I shall.
You don't. Well, I mean, you can blend acrylics, but I don't. I don't wet blend. I glaze.
I don't know how you do it.
That's different. Glazing is different.
It's
not blending.
I don't get it.
It's not hard.
Don't make sense.
All right,
Like
if we're
magic.
throwing extras out there, I want to learn photography. I want to be able to photograph my models better than I do. It's just a little bit of practice and it's a little bit of setup, and I know I'm going to learn that too.
I truly believe anyone can learn that. I did. I don't have a background in photography. I don't know crap about photography other than how my camera works. If I got a different camera, I'd be screwed because I wouldn't know what to do. I'd have to relearn everything.
in our last episode when we spoke with Jeremy Moore, it was great. He gave John some photo tips, and his feedback was very non-scientific and very, very helpful. I really liked his approach on that. So maybe that might be something to go back and refer to. But Grant and JB, do you guys want a second go around here?
Well, I had two at the start, so I guess I did both of mine. If I could change one thing, I'd change somebody on our team, actually. I'd want Jensen to get a U.S. citizenship. That's what I'd like to change.
That would be good.
I was worried about the way I was going to say. I want to change someone on our team. Jensen, you sacked.
That's right. There's the door. Don't let it hit you on the way out.
Have a nice life.
Oh yeah. By the way, we're recording, but yeah, you're fired.
Just a little FYI.
Have you ever tried involuntary redundancy?
We're working on a new outsourcing program.
I guess I got one more. I'd like to build a plane. I keep on talking about it every year. I keep on talking about it, but I don't know. It's one of those things. Just got to work on it. Do it. I think that I just get scared, and it's stupid. It's all stupid, but that's what I need to do.
No, it's not stupid. It's just, it's a hobby. It's supposed to be fun, and you have things that you prefer, and like people that put 500-pound tires on the tops of strikers. You have things you don't prefer.
Yeah, let's not get that argument. I'm still digging through the hate mail. No, I think you're right. It's just something I got to do, and just, do it, and, get that right mentality and just push right through it. It'll come. It'll always do. It always does. Yeah, and that's, a goal, I guess. So you just keep trying.
Absolutely. Well, for all of you listening out there, we'd love to get your input on this. When you're listening to this, just post it in our Plastic Posse Facebook group or send us an email. But let us know if there were one thing that you could change about your modeling or one skill you could add. What would that be? And we'd love to take a look at that. All right. Well, let's take a quick break and hear from one of our sponsors, and then we will come back on the other side with Jensen.
The Triple P is sponsored by Tankcraft, makers of the highly realistic aftermarket 3D printed tank tracks in 1/35 scale. Tankcraft Pro Tracks are as real as it gets. These are not just copies of previously produced model kit parts. These designs are based on real 1-to-1 scale tank track links that Tankcraft has measured and photographed. These designs are then downsized to 1/35 scale, printed, and then test fitted to major brand 1/35 armor kits. Having used these tracks, we can honestly say that these are the highest quality tracks that we've ever used. Super detailed, easy to assemble, with very fine, almost invisible layer lines. Cleanup is minimal and usually not even needed. So go on over to tankcraft.com right now, that's TANKRAFT.com, and get yourself a set of Pro Tracks. While you're there, check out the other cool scale modelling tools that they sell. Your bench will thank you. And just a reminder, Posse fans can get 15% off their first order using the Posse15 code at checkout. That's POSSE 15 at checkout for your discount. Okay, so it's time to take a look at the Plastic Posse Facebook group. This is a group that's just growing exponentially with extremely talented modelers. And I think this is a section where we kind of want to highlight some of the amazing work that's being showed off in that group. So I'll take a start. I really want to highlight Christian Wolf's vignette. It's just sublime. It's 3 Russian soldiers raising the Soviet flag over Berlin. It's just so well captured. It's small, but it's detailed. It creates an atmosphere. You can see how well it's been referenced from a real life image. As well as its accuracy to the image, it's just beautifully modeled as well. Though the figures are painted well, the scenery, the flag, just everything about it. Me, Jackson, and Zach tease Christian a lot, but he's just such a good modeler, especially for his age. He's a young guy. He's like us 3. He's just so good. Everything he touches is gold. So yeah, as soon as I saw it, I was like, yeah, I've got to highlight this. It's a beautiful piece.
Yeah, it seems like every time you see another one of his pieces on Facebook or social media, he just gets better all the time. He kind of reminds me a little bit about Martin Drayton, where, every time you think, okay, he's going to plateau, and then he just takes it to another level. And you got to see his work, you and JB got to see his work in person at Telford.
We did. And like many people, when you see it in person, it's like, this is damn good. It looks good on the internet, but in person, this is seriously impressive.
Yeah, it was pretty awesome. I saw, it's interesting. He builds a lot of different genres. I focused and loved his American armor the most, actually, in person. I think he had an M16 half track, he had M4 105. So he had a really nice display with one of the club tables. And again, super talented artist, younger modeler, which is great, and willing to put himself out there and share his work. And I think he's a really great ambassador to community, and we could use more people like him.
So, Scott, what caught your eye on the group?
As I was going through the group in the past week, I noticed David Brian Bridges has been working on a 1/35 scale Panther, and he posted some interesting photos. He's got the hole in the basic tritone camouflage, but it's just been roughed in. There's been no weathering, but then he's starting to attack very, very specific things on the model. Specifically the Pioneer tools and the Flammvernister exhausts on the rear hull in particular. And so you've got, most of the model hasn't been touched as far as the weathering, but these individual pieces, he's just attacked and, weathered and chipped and, added different layers to it. And it's kind of a little bit of a unique perspective to see a model kind of in this state. And then it shows, of course, David is a really, really good modeler. But seeing, kind of an unweathered, very, very basic approach to the armor of the tank, and then seeing, a really detailed shovel or a really detailed exhaust is just really great. And I can't wait for that, detail to kind of spread to the rest of the vehicle. Did any of you guys see that?
Yeah, I did. It was pretty cool. I mean, I really like the exhaust, like you said. It did a great job. It's so sublime that it just jumps out at you.
Yeah, I thought it was really well done. And Scott, I love it when you talk dirty. No, David's work speaks for itself. Awesome modeler, great friend. It was really nice getting to see him down in Fort Benning, and his Panther is no exception. So cannot wait to see it cross the finish line. And I believe he's coming to Texas, so we will be able to see it in person along with a lot of other listeners.
Awesome. It's always good to see David, and it'll be great to see what this thing looks like when he's completely done with it.
What about you, John? What caught your eye?
Oh, man, Jensen, I hate to do this because people are going to think I'm inherently biased to my friends. And maybe that's true because my friends are awesome. But I got to call out John Everett, a neighbor right down the road. He posted his Penelope Pithecosaurus. It's a 1-to-1 scale dinosaur. It looks absolutely fantastic. It was posted right before we started recording. I've seen the progress of it at the local club meetings. Again, it's 1-to-1 scale, rotocast resin. He replaced the eyes with, I think, lynx eyes, resculpted the skin, the skin texture around the eyes, textured all the joints. It's really beautiful. And I think of the Indiana Jones quote from The Last Crusade. That belongs in a museum because it's really true. If you look at it, it looks real. He took some photographs out, I'm pretty sure in the field next to our neighborhood. And you could swear to God it's real. It's probably out there eating prairie dogs, for crying out loud, even though I think it was a vegetarian. But that said, it's gorgeous, and I applaud John's work. It's very inspiring. Growing up, I love dinosaurs, still do. But bottom line, John's dinosaur is great. I think the tones are awesome. It's better than Philip, dare I say, which was a really big. It was a staple of the Vegas show, and I think this is only better. And I do hope one day, I know his kids have claimed a lot of them, but it could be in the Natural History Museum. It's that good. So I implore everyone to hop on over to the group and check it out. I'll also plug his website, Cold Basement Models. I've been in the basement. It's cold and it's very reflective of his workspace. So John's a great guy. And what would John ever do? Out.
I will say that I totally agree with that, how awesome that little dinosaur is. Yeah, the eyes are beautiful. The skin tones are beautiful. That the variation in coloration that he has, the spikes on its back are a little different. Everything has its own place, and nothing doesn't match. It all looks like it looks real. And the eyes, I think, are taxidermy eyes that he uses. So they're glass that he replaces. He drills them out and replaces them that way. I believe that's what he told me. So yeah, awesome.
Yeah. I agree with that, Doug. I just he brings an authenticity to these dinosaur models that, he makes them real. This is like John said, museum quality work that could be, that you could see in a documentary, like a TV show or a movie or something. It's that good. And John, he's a fun guy to be with and has great philosophies and everything, but he's also a really talented artist, making models. We talk about it all the time, painting a figure, making models of something that's a biological thing rather than a mechanical thing is hard, and he takes these things and brings them to life, and it's stunning. It's really, really good.
Yeah, John's just great all around. So TJ, what grabbed your attention on the page?
I wanted to go with Matt Mathis's Tamiya F-16C. It's awesome. I'm a huge fan of the F-16. It's my favorite jet. It has been since I was a little kid. I've always wanted to do one, and every time I see one that's so well done like this one, it's like push me closer and closer to actually doing that. So that's why I picked it, because if it makes me want to go build it, then that to me, that's the highest compliment I think you can give someone for their model. And Matt's a cool dude. He goes by Sprue Cutter Models on Instagram as well. And his F-16 is cool. It's an F-16, man. Like it's hard to go wrong. They're so tight. I don't know what it is about them. It's, like the Ferrari of American fighter jets, I think. But yeah, that's what I went with. Good model, Matt. Thanks for posting it in the group.
Yeah, I'll echo that too. I thought it was really good. It was second on my list. And I'm with you, TJ. The F-16 is pretty sweet. I have one courtesy of Steve Baker, and I really want to build it. And Matt's is certainly is inspiring. And good to know his Instagram handle, because I didn't put two and two together there. So nice.
Doug, what grabbed your eye?
I found Gunnar Baumer's. It was Tacom's M114 A1E1. It was from Reforger Exercise in Germany, 1973 is what he says. But and the kit, he did a beautiful job. Great paint, great weathering. Overall, it's fantastic. But this is what I thought of when I was thinking about what I want to add to my arsenal of modeling skills. This base, this diorama just blows my cookies. And I'll tell you what it is. There's a couple of pine trees in it, and they're really nice. But the grass that's kind of spotty around it, the pine needles underneath the trees are great. But right in front of it, it's this piece of armor is what looks like it's about a 6-foot drop in scale, with a little dirty water at the bottom, with rocks strewn in this broken earth face. There's roots sticking out. It's just so dang cool. I just can't say enough good about this thing. I love it.
Yeah, I'd have to agree. Just every piece of work that he does is just magnificent. Like, just can't disappoint the eye. It just always looks so nice.
Yeah, Gunnar's a great modeler, and I'm happy he's posting in the group, because fun fact, his Sherman is on the cover of AFE Modeler's M4 Sherman book. So the A1 that's crossing the bridge with foliage, that's his.
That's his. Wow. Yeah, I tell you what, the diorama is great. The figure out of the driver's hatch, I think it's the driver's hatch. The old Verlinden, looks like the old Verlinden figures. He painted it, looks so good. And the early 70s weird American camouflage that we had is just, he nails it. And when you get like Rick Lauer and Ron Volstead say, yeah, you're doing it pretty good. That's you're doing good work. So, his work is fabulous. It's just you look at that diorama base, and there's just so much to soak in. And every time you look at it, you find something else. I didn't even think about the roots. While you're talking about it, I went and looked at the picture, and yeah, those roots are coming right through the side of the little drop off there. It's perfect. It's great.
Yeah, there's a lot going on in this thing, and it all fits.
It's not overwhelming either. And that's good. It's not like 1,000 things in your face and you just kind of get lost in it. It's just the subtleness of the whole thing is just the trees, the grass, like you said, the damage that the M114 did in the ground behind it, as it drove up to this position. Like, it's a great choice.
Yeah, that's another one. I have that kit. I've built it. It is not painted. I have the paints to paint it in the master camo, which is that's that scheme. It was used by the 7th Army in Germany in the 80s. It's like a offshoot of the Murdoch camo. I think it's the only place it was ever used. It was never used operationally that I know of, but I love that camo so much. It's just 'cause it's so different. And that's another one, man. When he posted that, I was like, oh, I should go get mine out of the box and paint it, because it's ready for paint. I didn't, but I will hopefully soon. But yeah, he did. His work's top shelf.
Last but certainly not least, Grant, what grabbed your attention?
I want to talk about real quick. Night Shift's new video came out. It'll be a couple of weeks when you see this, but it was his weathering of his Carl mortar. And of course, his weathering techniques are fabulous. How he does everything is just great. But I listened to it twice today as I was working on some stuff in my headphones, and I was starting to catch stuff like how long it was taking him to do stuff. He talked about the pin wash, I think, took him 5 days, because of the size of the vehicle and the amount of work he does and how he individualizes it so much, which, that's a lot of time. I wish I could do that too, but his work is the subtleness of things on that vehicle or that mortar are just great. The dirt that he has actually behind the road wheels, I guess they're called road wheels on a big, huge thing like that, is you don't see it very well. And he points it out. Yeah, you're not going to see a lot of this, but it's there. And you see the video, the exhaust pipes, how he painted the exhaust pipes a dark gray and then went in with a very light color and then just molded it around the whole fixture and then put rust over top of it and watered it down and just let it flow and dried it off real quick. And it looked just, 3 paints, bang, fantastic. You see stuff like that. And we all know that, he's changed his style a little bit of putting out videos. But when you have a video like that of 31 minutes of showing you how he did the weathering on this vehicle, it is so worth it. To me, it is, at least. When I see his stuff, and I would rather have him put a video out every 3 weeks of this quality And the amount of information you get and how he does stuff any day. I don't know how you guys feel about that, but his stuff is just, when he slows down like this and explains stuff a lot more, it opens so many eyes to me. So that's what I
completely agree. This new schedule for him, it can only be a good thing for everyone. When he's happier and he's in a better place and he's doing projects he likes on a schedule he's happy with, that can only mean the content's going to benefit from that, which means obviously us as a consumer is going to benefit greatly. It can only be a good thing.
Yeah, quality over quantity any day. I agree with you, Jensen. It's just going to be good for all the rest of us who are fans and who are Patreons. And, it's like, yeah, if you need to take more time to do better quality stuff than what you're already doing, sign me up.
I tell you what, and one side note, I didn't know that vehicle was so big. I didn't even think about it. That thing is massive. He was, in the video I saw released today, it was blackening the tracks, and he put them in this huge container because they're so big, and you think about how, that's something that rolling down the road, I don't know how you would react to something like that.
Yeah, absolutely. All right. Well, thanks, Jensen. That was great. We appreciate it. Listeners, if you're seeing some work on the Plastic Posse group that you like and you're inspired by, make some comments, tell the builders how much you like them and enjoy them, and post your own work there. That's what the group is there for. And there's some incredible people, very, very talented who are putting work up on that page all the time. Anyway, well, John, let's talk about some upcoming model shows and events.
Yeah, thanks, Scott. We have quite a calendar in the upcoming months for events all across the continent, actually. So, in the world, for that matter. So, what's up first? This is an online contest, not even a contest, online group bill, I should say. Model Officers Mess 48 and 48 Birthday Bash. It'll be held online with the Models for Heroes. We will be taking part along with some other folks in North America, and that's going to be really exciting. That's March 10th through 12th. I think everybody online here has a build picked out. I'll tell you what, it's one of those events where it's just really well done. It's for a really great cause. It's just a lot of fun, and I know we'll go into the wee hours of the morning. And Scott, I think you're on point to lead some of the content, correct?
Yeah, I'll be taking some of the time zones and just kind of helping coordinate so that James gets a little bit of sleep during that weekend.
Yeah, it's quite a production. They do a really good job keeping the modelers engaged and the community as well. So if you have time over that weekend, please stop by. That'll be live on the Model Officers Mess, hosted mainly by James Skiffin, and we'll be supporting that along with a few other folks. In addition to that, we have Commies Fest, March 25th at the Wings Over the Rockies Centennial Facility, which is called the Exploration of Flight. That is in my neck of the woods, and I cannot wait for it. I know a lot of folks are coming into town for this event, and it's going to be absolutely fantastic. So that is Saturday the 25th. As I mentioned previously in the video, on the podcast, the IPMS Hamilton's Heritage Con 15 will be held on Sunday, March 26th at the Canadian Warplane Heritage. I know a lot of people are going to it. I think the other podcast, Scale Model Podcast, obviously is going to be up there. The Mojo folks are going, and then I think Darren from the Geeks as well. So it's going to be quite an event. Really wish we could go. It just happened to fall on the same weekend as Commies Fest, and the other one I can literally see from my house. So it's unfortunate, but we will definitely be there in spirit. We'll be sharing all the content that the other podcasts are sharing, and we look forward to hearing about it. And I guess I got to get the Mooseroot Cup done for that. So that's coming along. So after the Heritage Con, we have the MFCA show May 5th and 6th at the Radisson Hotel, Philadelphia East. Should be a great show. People come in through all out the world to bring their work, and it's really, 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 really good. And I wish I could be going. So super jealous. TJ's going to be there. I'm sure he's going to clean up, and can't wait to see the content he creates from that event. And we have the big event, the IPMS Nationals in San Marcos, Texas, August 2nd through the 5th. This will be an absolutely fantastic time. We have another royal appearance. By then, I hope he's a sir. I mean, we'll get the documents in order so we can have it during the presentation. But no, all jokes aside, this should be an awesome event held San Marcos, Texas, the IPMS Nationals. Don't miss it. Everybody who's anyone will be there, and it will certainly be a great time.
Well, lots of shows that are happening. We're super excited. If you guys have a local chapter or a show that you'd like us to talk about, go ahead and email the details of those to plasticpossepodcast@gmail.com, and we will add them to the list. All right, well, let's take a moment and hear from our good friends over at Bases by Bill, and then come back and get a group build update from TJ.
The Triple P Maquet Group Build is sponsored by Bases by Bill. Bases by Bill specializes in making beautiful crafted wooden custom display solutions for your scale models, built by modelers for modelers. These premium quality display cases and innovative base designs are available for just about any size of model. These custom sized display bases range from 4 to 30 inches, providing the perfect foundation for dioramas or vignettes. As a reminder, if you don't see what you need, ask. Chances are they can customize the perfect solution for you. Check out Bases by Bill and see the new custom display products for busts and figures. Use the code POSSE, P-O-S-S-E, at checkout to apply a 15% listener discount to your order. Bases by Bill for all your model display needs.
All right. So we'll take a quick look over at the Plastic Posse Podcast MAK SF3D group build. Admittedly, not a lot has happened because it's only been 7 days since we last recorded. So the main stuff going on is stuff I've been posting with the Goblin. And our friend Joshua has been posting his Mel that he's been building. He's working on a little base for it. It looks really cool. I printed him a name tag or a plaque for it, a couple plaques, so he can choose one. And that is on the way to him. He should have that by the time this airs. The other thing going on is Jason Davis, who I know from a bunch of other Mac groups, is also building a Goblin because he saw me build my Goblin, and now he has one, so he started that. So good luck to him. It's going to be a little bit of a challenging kit, and that's pretty much it. It's been a little quiet this week.
Well, I heard you made a purchase from somewhere in Japan that's going to be here in a couple months. What is that, TJ?
Oh, yeah, I forgot about that. Which reminds me, I should probably pay them. Yeah, I bought I haven't bought it yet. I've ordered a 1/35 scale Sphinx.
Man, that's...
For the uninitiated, the Sphinx is a hovering missile platform, and it's in 1/35 scale, and it is large. Brian Krieger's done one. He's, I think, done the only one I've ever seen other than maybe one other. His is definitely the best by far. It's so awesome. I have a 1/76 scale version of it too, and that alone is a solid chunk of resin, and it's only, I don't know, 4 or 5 inches long. Yeah, so 1/35 scale thing will literally fill up my whole desk. I can't wait to get it. I should be getting it in April, May. It's not going to come to any show this year, I don't think.
That thing is even bigger than the Nutcracker on the. It makes that thing look like tiny.
Yeah. So when I get it, I'll probably start building it. So that will be in the group in a couple of months.
And Brian's was okay. I mean,
can't win locally, but
let's be honest. I mean, it's all right.
Funniest story though is, should I put a figure next to it to show how big it is? Yeah, you should. So yeah, it was like you said though, it was okay. It did okay. People looked at it.
All right. Well, thank you, TJ. Appreciate that group update. If you guys haven't joined the Machine and Krieger group build and you'd like to, just look on Facebook for Plastic Posse MAK group build. And, we'd love to have you. There's a few rules, so check out the group for that. And, we're going to plan on having everybody reveal their work at San Marcos at the IPMS Nationals. All right, let's roll into some feedback. Doug, what has the Plastic Posse been up to?
Well, we had a lot of feedback regarding our discussion from our last episode. We'll start with Eric DeGleish. He writes to say, I eventually got to listen to episode 62, and what a great episode. I'm in agreement that modeling is purely for fun, and although I try to be in the ballpark of accuracy, I don't get hung up over it. Great to hear from Uncle Nightshift again, and boy, does he seem happier compared to recent months. Wonder if he's really going to do a Maquet kit. It would be really cool if he does.
Well, we are pretty certain that he's going to do a Machine and Krieger kit, so we'll just leave it at that, but pretty sure you guys might see something like that from him soon.
He continues, I don't know if everyone listened all the way to the end, but you guys talked about non-modeling podcasts. The only other things I listened to are audiobooks, especially Stephen Fry. I really enjoyed him reading the Harry Potter series, and I just downloaded Stephen reading Sherlock Holmes, so hopefully that'll be cool. Scott mentioned that he listened to a podcast of extinct civilizations. Can I ask the name of that podcast? It's something I'd be interested in. Thanks, guys, and I'm looking forward to the next one.
Yeah, that podcast is called The Fall of Civilizations. pretty good if you're into that kind of thing. I enjoy it.
I'm got to be honest, I'm disappointed I missed out on that talk. That would have been a fun one. Such is life. Yeah, so it seems like we were in the mood to talk about non-modeling podcasts, and we got a lot more feedback on that. Jesse Naughton recommended, among others, Hardcore History, Intelligence Matters, We Have Ways of Making You Talk. The Moth, still my favorite single episode, is the Bathtub Sailor of that one. Radio Lab, Cautionary Tales, Against the Rules, Modern War Institute, Revisionist History, and Lost Ballparks. Matt McDougall, aka Doogs, also wrote, he actually spelled y'all, just so y'all know. Y'all were asking about non-modeling podcasts in the last episode, and I've got one for you. If you like movies and just some dang good storytelling, I ad-libbed that dang part. The Are You Afraid of a Dark Universe is fantastic. The premise is ridiculous. Two guys building an MCU-style universe with the universal monsters like Frankenstein, Dracula, Invisible Man, etc., off the back of the terrible Tom Cruise Mummy movie. Each episode, one of them writes and pitches the next movie in the series. They wrap phase 1 at the end of 2022 with an Avengers-style team-up that's better than most movies I saw last year. If nothing else, it's worth listening to just for the Invisible Man treatment. Jim Schmidt adds this to our Stinger segments. Really enjoyed the after show of 62. The Last of Us discussion reminded me that I had recently caught up on some old episodes. In episode 7, Scott, TJ, and Doug talked about Diablo 4. Our son started as a test analyst on the D4 team a couple years ago. It's been so interesting to get a bit of a peek behind the curtain of the game and the game making in general. The amount of resources for a AAA game title is just astounding. Keep up the great work.
Yeah, we are getting really, really close to that. I think June 5th is the release date for Diablo 4. And man, it's been a long wait. I'm really excited. What about you guys?
Yeah, it's been a long wait. We talked about that on episode 7, and we are
Exactly.
on episode 64, and it's still not out yet. But hey, look, it's D4 is gonna be sweet. It was a couple weeks ago, maybe a month ago, they released I think one of the last character videos, I think, for the Necromancer. I love Diablo 3 is still one of my all-time favorite games, and yeah, I'll be diving headfirst, grinding out some monsters when D4 comes out. Got to go kill Diablo again.
Absolutely.
I hope their servers are ready for it, because I took the day off. It was my birthday when D3 came out. I took the day off. I got myself a big lunch and I got set up to play, and their servers crashed. They weren't ready for that much play. And so I didn't get to play it on my birthday. I hope they're ready this time.
It's a very sad story, Doug.
It was a sad story, but I've grown since then.
Yeah, I think we talked about this way back when, but yeah, just the Diablo franchise, like TJ said, I played them all, and just can't wait for this one. The changes that they've made and the updated graphics in the world, they just all look fantastic. So crossing my fingers that lives up to expectations.
Well, thanks, everybody. And remember that you can send your feedback and suggestions to us via email at plasticpossepodcast@gmail.com.
All right, listeners, now it's time for our special segment with Meranda and Stephan Mertens from Holland and Malcolm Childs from Models for Heroes in the UK. This was a super interesting conversation. They both have a wonderful mission in their countries, and it was just great to talk to both of them before we kick off the Models for Heroes group build. So we're going to go off into the episode, and we'll catch you on the flip side.
Well, hello, everybody. Welcome in. Of course, I am Scott. I'm joined today by my co-host, Mr. John Benani. How you doing, John?
I'm fantastic. I'm looking forward to this discussion.
We are joined today by 3 special guests who are also friends, done some things together in the past, and we're going to be doing some things in the future that we'll talk about. First of all, we have the lovely, handsome Mr. Malcolm Childs from Models for Heroes and also Just Making Conversation.
Hey guys,
how you doing, Malcolm?
I'm good, thank you very much. Very well, thanks. This fine Sunday afternoon.
And then we also have Stephan and Meranda Mertens. I know that's not the right way to say it, but how are you guys today joining us from the Netherlands?
How are you doing? Fine, Scott.
Yeah, doing great.
Yeah.
Thank you.
And it's almost the same weather as on the other side of the channel. So
awesome. Well, we are here today to talk about Models for Veterans, which is an organization that is closely aligned with Models for Heroes, which, as hopefully all of you or most of you know, is a partner of the Plastic Posse. It's an organization that we really strongly believe in, and we're proud to do whatever we can to help. I think where I want to start is with Malcolm, and maybe have him just give everybody a brief introduction of Models for Heroes, what it does, how it started, and then we'll go from there.
Okay. So Models for Heroes is a charitable organization set up in the UK. We've been running since 2017. We provide model making kits and guidance and model making sessions, both online and face-to-face, to the armed forces personnel serving and former, and also emergency service personnel as well. The model making hobby is incredibly wholesome and meaningful. It's like my elevator pitch you're asking me to do here, Scott. It's incredibly wholesome and meaningful, and is a fantastic activity for veterans and everybody, but specifically for veterans, because a lot of the hobby deals with military subjects. That's pretty much what we do in a nutshell.
Well, I think it's much more to that, to the individual participants. And, maybe a good way to build on that is, Stephan, let's start with you. But how did you meet Malcolm, and where did your association start with Models for Heroes?
I'm a veteran in the Netherlands, and I was suffering PTSD, and in that matter, I started a web shop with scale models, because it gave me a lot of rest and relaxing to build some models. It keeps my mind clear. I get some veterans in my shop, and they said I don't have any money to buy any models, because I cannot afford it. And it hurts me a lot. I had a strong feeling I had to do something with it. And then Malcolm came on the road because I saw a video clip on the BBC. And that's how I contacted Malcolm. And we made a sort of exact copy of what they're doing in the UK. We also provide veterans to come together to keep building skill models, and the veterans who cannot afford any skill modeling boxes, we give it to him. So that's in a nutshell how I met Malcolm.
Oh, that's fantastic. And, you alluded to, helping veterans who maybe didn't have the financial wherewithal to do modeling. But of course, there's a lot more to it than that. You mentioned the impact that modeling's had on your own personal life, the distraction that the hobby can provide from, some of the issues that people suffer from, that especially veterans. I don't think it's too much to say that it can be potentially life-saving to help somebody get a hobby and to feel like they're a part of something that allows them to focus.
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, Meranda, give us your Malcolm story. How I assume that it's going to be pretty well connected here, but tell us a little bit about meeting Malcolm and what your role is in Models for Veterans.
Yeah, we met Malcolm. We sent him a message through Facebook, I thought, yeah. And, well, he responded immediately and was very enthusiastic. He really wanted to support us and gave us a lot of tips. We set up online meetings through to StreamYard. And we also do this once a week, just like Models for Heroes does right now. So, yeah, we had great tips from Malcolm, especially for veterans that were at home, isolated and with the curtains closed and just couldn't get out. So, we managed to get a lot of veterans to meet other veterans again. And each veteran that we can help is one, and we are very proud of it. So yeah,
As you should be. You alluded to the fact that this hobby and also people that suffer from different struggles and everything tend to be isolated, and people that do this hobby tend to be isolated. And just from a general standpoint, I think when we collaborate and we share our experiences and we work on things together, I think the hobby takes on a whole new perspective. I think it's very, very powerful just from a community standpoint, but particularly from what you guys are doing as to the impact it can make in people's lives.
Yeah, absolutely. And we encourage the veterans in the Netherlands to go ahead and contact Malcolm and other veterans from Models for Heroes too. And they are very open to it and very supportive. So yeah, it's very great.
Malcolm, maybe you can help us a little bit with some of the specifics. I know that you're going to be the most well versed, but why is having a hobby, doing something with your hands, that kind of thing, why is it such a powerful tool in helping people who are suffering?
There has been some research done on the distraction that the hobby can bring, not directly scale modeling, but activities that require all of your thought and the healing power that can give you. So like daydreaming or meditation, that kind of thing, that kind of relaxing, quieting of your mind, allowing you to regather your thoughts is quite powerful. And psychologists call it what do they call it? They call it flow. That's it. And it's when you lose track of time, you lose track of yourself, and you're just in the present moment. You're not thinking about your future or past. You're just thinking about the now. And I think flow could be found in if you go running. I don't know how much of a runner you are, Scott, or Meranda or JB here, but when you go running, that you can get into a zone where you are just not thinking about anything else, just the road ahead, if you like, and that's incredibly restful and relaxing state. So there's that. So that can be quite bring you peace, basically. But also the fact that the hobby is focusing on mostly military subjects. Veterans obviously have that knowledge of what those bits and pieces in the kit are and what they do and what they're for, and whether it's the right filters for the right place, whether in that conflict they had those wheels and those little details we, as scale modelers, love and want to get right. Veterans, that's their bread and butter. That's what they know. So having that meaningful need within the hobby is very, very powerful, especially when you have a veteran who's feeling very down and isolated, and is concerned about not having a purpose anymore. Scale modeling can really bring that back out. So more research needs to be done, clearly, but there's something that Models for Heroes are going to try and do in the future.
So tell us a little bit first, Malcolm, and then Stephan and Meranda. How do these organizations work? Are they fueled by volunteers? How can people in the UK and also in the Netherlands help your organizations out? Let's start there.
Okay. Well, Models for Heroes is voluntary run. So we're entirely ran by volunteers. We are in the UK, it's called a community interest company. So all our profits that we make, if we made any profits, was go back into the company and in terms of stock and running it and admin and everything else. We also have a governance, so we have directors or trustees, if you like, that make sure that going on the right path, and we're doing everything as our mission is. We're doing everything for veterans and emergency service personnel, and doing everything proper and transparently. We also are part of the fundraising regulator here in the UK, so it means that all our fundraising has to be legitimate and again transparent, and that we are accountable for the things that we do, which is really important for a charitable organisation, obviously, to be 100% honest and legal and everything else. So running all that does actually just take quite a lot of time out of model making, unfortunately. I'm sure that scale models for vets have the same sort of administration difficulties. Yeah, Miranda's nodding. That we do, and it gets worse the bigger you get, and the larger you get, and the more success you have with your organisation. But yeah, that's pretty much how we are run.
And in the UK, Malcolm, if somebody wanted to donate time or volunteer or donate money, how would they do that for Models for Heroes?
On the website, modelsforheroes.org.uk, there is a massive green button called Donate. Hit that and it gives you all the information you require. So whether you're donating kits, whether you're donating your time, whether you're donating Airfix flying hours to us, or whether you are donating funds or indeed unstarted model kits, all the details are there for donations from the UK to us. We also have international links as well, so you can find out the links to scale models for vets over in Tilburg, and then we also have the couple of other organisations that are internationally too. So if you go to modelsforheroes.org.uk, that's modelsforheroes.org.uk, then you'll get all the info you need. Also, you can pop me an email if you click on the contact button. That email comes to us.
Excellent. Well, Stephan and Meranda, you guys are up. Tell us a little bit. Same question for you. First of all, how does your operation work? Volunteers, et cetera. And then how do people in the Netherlands, how can they help?
Our organization is almost similar like Models for Heroes. We work with volunteers, and we have a few places where we come together to build skill models and talk to each other and have a lot of fun. That's the most important thing, having a lot of fun and learn about skill modeling from each other, so we can lift each other up to a higher level. We are working with some organizations like you have in the USA, the USO organization. They give us some money to get some projects in the Netherlands where we can help a few veterans for a whole year, and then they get every month about 1 or 2 skill models boxes, or they get an airbrush or other materials. We are having once a week on StreamYard a show for about 2 hours, and we are starting in the Netherlands at about 7 o'clock on Wednesday, and it's until about 9 o'clock. So it's about this time for the viewers in UK and in the USA. And what else?
We support mental hospitals.
We are supporting mental hospitals, military hospital in the Netherlands, where they have some guys who are suffering from PTSD, and then they can also do skill modeling over there. When some people want to donate, we have also a website, skillmodelsforvets.nl. And there they can find all the information about donating skill models, donating money. And if they want to be a volunteer in the Netherlands, how to do that. They can send us an email, skillmodelsforvet@gmail.com. And that's about it.
Yeah, no, that's fantastic. And just to all three of you, it's admirable what you do, and, using this hobby and using, your own personal time. Malcolm mentioned how much time it takes away from your own hobby, but it helps so many people. And it's a cause that John and I really, really believe in. And, the Plastic Posse, we really believe in. It's part of what we view our social media platform as a builder of community and trying to help people remember that they're not alone. There are people all over the world that may not have a local hobby store or have a club or a group of friends with them. And in your case, people that maybe are suffering, and it's so important. Well, I'm going to turn some time over to John, and we want to talk about some upcoming events, and we'll go from there.
Yeah, thanks, Scott. I actually want to hit the rewind button and go back to November. One of the topics I think we glossed over really quickly, and it really struck me and showed the impact of the work that you're doing, Malcolm, is the time at Scale Model World Telford. I was really blown away by your presence there, Models for Heroes, the type of environment that you created in that side of the hall. If you could just talk about, for our listeners that weren't there, maybe talk about your booth and the was it the Walnut Challenge as well that was there? Because you showed me the one that was with the Kuba wagon. So maybe just talk a little bit about that event and kind of, did it bring people in from the community that maybe had never gone to a show before?
So Scale Model World, we always try and make our display kind of the hub or the center of people's visit, especially if they're a beneficiary. Not only so someone can throw their bag or their coat, but also as a safe place you can go. You know, if you're once you've been walking around hundreds and hundreds of people, sometimes you just want a quiet time. So we always offer that, and we always get the nice comfy chairs as well for tired legs. And this year, I think we probably had about 40 to 50 people just around our stand, which was lovely. Not particularly lovely for the people that were trying to trade around us, but we just had a fantastic group of people there, and we were able to offer that space for people. The show itself was fantastic, as you know. I could hardly walk anywhere without getting accosted or grabbed or talked to forcefully by somebody. But it was great. It was really good. And again, I'd love to go as a punter one day, just sit and enjoy the show from the other side of the fence one day. That'd be good. But it was brilliant, and we're really pleased to be able to offer a place for veterans to be able to hang out. I mean, especially right round on the Sunday around the remembrance as well. That was quite special, and I'm always quite proud of how well respected and respectful people are in that hall. And you've got how many people do you think is in there? 5,000 people at once?
At least
at least in one hall. So there's 3 halls, and all 3 halls are silent for 2 minutes, and they're reflecting on our bravest. And it's quite amazing, because I don't think at the local cenotaph you would have that many people. But it's just wonderful, and I love the fact that I felt comfortable that the veterans were happy to go to the minute silence with us rather than their local one. You know, they felt happy enough to go with Models for Heroes, which is quite powerful, I think. But hopefully we'll be even as big or even bigger next year. It was a lovely event, and it was great to see so many of our beneficiaries who had made the pilgrimage to see us at that show. But it's similar in most of the model shows that we go to, the local, the smaller ones. We have that same sort of vibe going on. We try and culture that friendly, kind of accepting and welcoming atmosphere with our tables if we can.
That's awesome. I hope to drag Scott over there maybe next year or the year after, because it is something special. And I'll say a big thanks to you again for the warm welcome. And I remember the first day we were there, we were up on the catwalk there and saw you and gave a good wave, and we were off to the races for a wonderful weekend. So amazing what you do there, amazing what you do outside of Telford. You know, one of the events that I'd love to hit on, because it's coming up quick and it also involves Stephan and Meranda, is the 48 and 48. And if you could just, maybe we'll bounce back and forth. I'll start with you, Malcolm, and then we can kick it over the channel to them to discuss. But, maybe talk about the impetus of that. What started it all? And because I think it's grown huge. I mean, it's something we certainly look forward to, and we know our listeners are going to participate this year as well.
Yeah. So the 48 came from James Skiffins, as I'm sure you know the name. James Skiffins, he has a Facebook page called Model Officers Mess, and they had a birthday, and they decided to do a little group build years ago where they had to build a 1/48 scale kit in 48 hours, and that caught on, and they decided to next year raise some money, and they raised money for Models for Heroes, and they've raised thousands of pounds. And then they did it again, and they involved the Scale Models for Vets as well, and they involved lots of groups around. They involved the Triple P, if I remember rightly. Was it Model Geeks, I think? Other podcasts from around the globe, as well as other groups and people who were, just wanted to take part, to join the live stream and, be part of this big 48-hour model marathon, I guess is what we could call it. And so it all comes from the Model Officers Mess. So if you wanted to get involved, that is where you would head to the Facebook page, which is Model Officers Mess. And there's There's a donate page on there if you want to donate. There's an enrollment, if you like. So where you put up what you're going to build, and then you can upload photographs as you go. If you can't join the live stream the entire time, you upload photographs of what you're building over that 48 hours. And then during the live stream, people will be selecting photographs to show on the live stream as well. So everyone feels like a part of it. For 48 hours, the entire world is model making, 1/48 scale.
Yeah, James and his crew, do a really great job. It's very entertaining. They'll remind you to get up and move around. They keep everybody involved. They make sure that, it's an ongoing conversation. He does trivia. They do contests. And then later on in the weekend, they're going to do auctions as well. So James and his team just do an incredible job. I don't think James gets much sleep that weekend and everything. But Stephan and Meranda, I mean, that's where we met you guys, is in one of these events. And man, what a great time it is.
Yeah.
Absolutely. It's great. It's fabulous. All over the world, they are building a skill model in skill 48, and we're having a lot of fun. And yeah, it's fun to see how everybody interacts and come together all around the world. It's great.
And we try to help.
We try to help James a little bit
with the show.
With the show,
so he can get some sleep.
It's amazing how, the first one we did, the difference from one to the next, and, how many time zones, and, for the event coming up on March 10th through the 12th, I think we've got people from Australia now on the bench that are going to be participating. So we've, got, European, United States, and, the Western Hemisphere, and now Australia as well. So, man, how exciting is that?
Yeah. And I also think New Zealand.
Yeah. Awesome.
Yeah, it's very great.
You obviously know more than me.
He was trying to get at least one person from every continent. In the futures. Yeah. That's
brilliant, isn't it? No, he's promised he's going to do more delegating this year than he did last year.
I hope
because
so.
He was like a disc jockey with like 30 different turntables of plates, So he's going to. I think we have to grab him and physically remove him from the computer this time. But
I'm always amazed at some of the projects that people pull out. I think, was it last year, a 48 scale F-18? I mean, usually that's like a 48 day to 48 month kind of thing with some people I know. So it was pretty amazing to see the amount of effort that was put in by a lot of the members. And I think what's important to hit on is just the camaraderie. No matter what time of the day, what place in the world, you could jump in and jump out, feel welcomed, have a safe space, and just enjoy the hobby of scale modeling. And I hazard, I'll make a bold claim. It's one of those events that it really allows you to connect with people throughout the world. And I think it's very hard to find that in a lot of other activities in life. When I go into work or I talk to some friends who aren't part of the hobby, and I mentioned, last year I did talk about the 48 and 48. I remember telling my boss, and they're like, we were at a team meeting, they're like, well, what are you going to be doing this weekend? Anything fun? I'm like, well, I'm going to be doing, some hobby stuff that's related to a fundraiser for a really great cause. And they kind of poked and prodded, like, well, what does that mean? What's the fundraiser? Who are these people? I'm like, well, it's this event to support veterans. It has people throughout the world. The idea is you build a model kit over 2 days. You connect with these people and you establish lifelong friendships. And it was kind of quiet in the room. And I think they were processing like, holy cow, you can do this? Like, is this possible? You have friends throughout the world. That sounds amazing. And what I found was, just a lot of support, not only for the hobby, of course, but for the event itself, the mission of the event, and the people that are supporting it. So I think bravo to both you, Stephan, and Meranda, and Malcolm and James, of course. Like, that's the type of event that I love, and I would love to see more of. But we're certainly happy to be a part of it. And I already have my kit right here. I actually pulled it out of the box. I'm going to be doing a 48 scale 3D printed tank that I bought from China. I just bring it up because I'm already excited. I plan months in advance for this. I actually have 2 more 3D printed kits coming, so I might be ambitious again and do 2 kits. But bottom line, I love the event. I know a lot of other people do, and we certainly can't wait for it.
There's always a bit of rivalry that goes on during this 48-hour build. I don't know if you've ever seen it or picked up on it. Especially with the guys from the Netherlands who just like to one up themselves every single time. Who was it that put or promised to put smoke machines into their build this year? I can't remember who that was. Somebody said they wanted to put smoke machine in, but yeah, lights going into builds was one of the things. It was last year, I think. Someone put some lights in. And what was incredible was I can't remember who it was. Was it Hoob or something? I can't remember. But they'd done a diorama and then they had the lights off and they said, "What do you think?" And they was like, "Oh yeah, you can't really see it." And then he clicked the button and the lights came on. And secretly, it added the lights.
I know, in 148 scale, and then you've got superhuman people like James, who is busy the whole weekend running this thing. He starts a model and then said, "No, this isn't going to work." Tosses that and then gets out another model and then makes a model and a diorama and finishes in 48 hours.
Yeah, in a frame on his wall. Yep, I know, fantastic. But that's the fun, I think, is that it's not just building a model kit, it's everything else on top of that as well. So if you wanted to build a diorama, you can actually, it also kind of changes the way you make models as well. It teaches you techniques and skills that perhaps you can really, really cut corners with. You don't have to worry about the quality changing as well. And also, obviously, everyone's working together and can problem solve with you if you have a difficulty.
Yeah, it's a variety of builders. And so you really just have a terrific variety of subjects. You've got people that are working on figures and other people that are working, John and I last year did sci-fi subjects from Star Wars gaming models and had a really good time with that. You've got aircraft, you've got armor. So it's really, really fun to do that. But Malcolm, you make a great point. The idea of having a 48-hour weekend where you can set aside and complete a build, for me, it's a real benefit. I mean, it may not sound like a benefit, but for me with a job and a podcast and a few other 1,000 things to do, to be able to set aside some time to, as John mentioned, hang out with good friends all around the world and share a hobby that we love so much, but then actually complete a project. And as you also mentioned, kind of changing the way that you build, arranging a build and creating a plan that you think is realistic to get your build done in that 48-hour time period. I think it helps give you skills. Yeah. Plan. The P word. But I think it helps create and sharpen skills that normally you wouldn't, I think most people, when they crack open a 48 scale kit, that might not be a priority, but Stephan and Meranda, what do you guys think about that?
Yeah, we love just getting involved with all other skill modelers around the world, and it's just a lot of fun and the respect for each other, and just have a laugh, and it's
a lot of good conversations during those 48 hours. Not only about skill modeling, but all different kind of things. You have conversations.
Even about breakfast or something.
Yeah, even about a proper English breakfast, for example.
Waffles.
Waffles. Yeah. So
waffles.
It's a complete package in those 48 hours. Yeah.
I have a question for Stephan, if I may.
Mm-hmm.
What are you going to be building in your 48 hours? That's what I want to know.
Ooh.
I cannot tell you about it. A little tip. It's something British.
Oh, that helps.
Yeah.
If it gets here in time.
If it gets here in time, it's going to be some British modeling. Yeah.
Okay. Wow. Well, is it coming from Britain? Because that might take you a long time, as we know.
No.
Things take a long
It's coming
time
from Germany.
From Germany.
Oh, right, up the road. Okay.
In the past, it was getting from the UK to Germany, and then it was going back if it was okay, and everything was fine.
Okay, interesting. Cryptic. What about you, Meranda?
I have no clue. I don't think I have something in the right skill, so maybe I'm going to finish up my model or something in the meanwhile. So.
Okay, because I know that you've done figures in the past, haven't you? Or busts and things.
Yeah, I have one that I'm working on right now. So yeah, it's a lady with a guitar on a log. So yeah.
What about you, Scott?
I think I'm going to do another Star Wars Legion build. I just really enjoyed. Last year I did the escape pod with R2 and C-3PO. Really enjoyed the build. I thought it fit the timber of the weekend really well, and just enjoyed it. So yeah, I think I'll probably do another one of those for this weekend.
Yeah, that's good. Well, I look forward to seeing that. Everyone will have to tune in and watch it on the live stream.
Yeah. What about you, Malcolm? Any early favorites?
Well, I've narrowed it down to 6 models that I might make.
Oh, so that's ambitious.
Yeah, no. Not 6 models in 40 hours. I've narrowed it down to 6 ideas, mostly aircraft, and mostly kits that have been bought in the past and I just haven't got around to. And so it's going to be a really good opportunity to build some of those kits and work on them. But yeah, probably an aircraft, probably 148. Definitely 148.
Nice. I know, Doug. I think I have to bring up the story. I feel like Doug from our podcast. He built I think it was a Focke-Wulf 190, but he was painting. I literally think within the first 30 seconds of the bell being rung to start. So it was pretty funny. I think he probably pre-planned some things to start executing as fast as possible.
I think he had unscrewed some of the paint pots ready.
Yeah, exactly. Have it all staged up, ready to go. But I think it's important. I do just want to hit on that brief topic. It teaches you outside of the true intent of the build. I do believe it does help you understand your own modeling skill, style, and tempo, because it breaks down potential falsehoods too, where I'm like, oh, I need to let paint dry for X amount of time before I do the next step, and then I need to do this and that, and in 48 hours you don't have time to do that. So it's a lot of fun. But yeah, anyway, so I'd love to go back to some comments made earlier, Malcolm. I'd love to learn more about kind of the logistics of the effort that you have. So, we talk about it being the online community, but you also go to, physical locations. And is it correct that you provide classwork or, instruction for those people?
Yeah, going back to Models for Heroes, you mean?
Yep.
Yeah. So we have a volunteer for each modeling session. This is a face-to-face session. Let's talk about this first. We'll have a volunteer that has been model making for a period of time, who knows how to use the glue, how to sand something down, how to understand the backwards instructions sometimes, but also understand that this is a frustrating hobby and you will get frustrated, but there's always a way around something. There's always a way of fixing something or picking something off the floor or putting something back together. You can repaint things, and to teach that the model making hobby isn't as difficult as it is touted to be in the general public. And so that's what they do. They guide and they encourage and they provide skills and tips and techniques that perhaps they wouldn't normally learn on their own, perhaps, but also then they'll guide them to local model clubs that they could join, guide them to different Facebook groups and forums online, and just be kind of their like model buddy, model making buddy. And then as part of their kind of role, if you like, is to encourage other veterans and people in the remit to join the group. So you eventually end up with beneficiaries who've been with us for 6 months, a year now, signing up to be a volunteer. Who are stakeholders in what we do and understand the cause and get out every couple of weeks to come out and do some model making and meet more people. So it keeps growing like that. That's the face-to-face ones. And I think we have about 30 of those that we run in the UK now, over 100 volunteers. And so the online sessions is slightly different. So when we started with COVID kicking off and we had lockdown, we really had to pivot and think about what we were going to do, because suddenly people who were isolated, even though they had been, they felt quite okay, or, well, I'm going to be isolated anyway, we wanted to have an extra thing that people could do. So online seemed to be the way to go, and the only way to go, to be honest. So we did loads of quick research, and we set up a quick online session on using Zoom, I think we used StreamYard a couple of times as well. And we ended up settling on Zoom for the online stuff. Fortunately, we got some funding from the Armed Forces Covenant Fund Trust. We got in contact with another UK organisation called Walking with the Wounded, and they helped us with all the kind of the funding and the financials and the admin. And then we eventually got these Zoom sessions running where a beneficiary could join free and speak to people from around the UK, all different times of the day, ran by volunteers, which was absolutely fantastic. And it's still going now. We are running it ourselves through our own donations. So beneficiaries can get in contact with us. They can self-refer. Out of the online sessions that we have running now, we have 9 different modeling sessions, and there's almost one a day, which means that the guys can log in, join in for a couple of hours, have a chat, have a chin wag, get the stresses of the day off their chest, work on a bit of modeling if they want to. They don't even have to turn on the cameras, to be honest. It's become a lifeline for some. It's become vital for some people in their day, and we are really happy and proud to be able to offer that kind of release and that connection with other people. From those Zoom sessions, other groups have started. Like, people have made their own little WhatsApp group for that particular evening. We have a Saturday night Zoom session WhatsApp group for just the beneficiaries in that group, and it's absolutely fantastic. They develop their own kind of clique, I suppose, and their own culture, and the models that they're making are brilliant, and they are really coming along as model makers too. So yeah, no, it's been fantastic, and it's nice that we can offer face-to-face and online.
It's incredible what you guys are doing, and we just can't support you enough. And really, thank you for your efforts on behalf of people. And one of the things about the 48 and 48, when this airs, it will be March 1st, and then March 10th through the 12th is the event. So people, please mark your calendars. Please hop on. Please build a model with us. Donate if you can. We'll have some online auctions. But one of the things I wanted to mention is during that event, you're going to meet people that volunteer for Models for Heroes. And most of those people are people that originally were clients, I guess, so to speak. And so that's really an incredible opportunity, is you'll get to meet people, like Stephan and Meranda, and people that their lives have been changed by this hobby and by this effort that Malcolm and Stephan and Meranda are leading. And so really, really appreciate that so much, you guys. Well, I want to switch back to the Netherlands for a moment. Doug from our podcast, JB mentioned him earlier. Guys, he participated with you in an event in the fall with Models for Veterans. Tell us a little bit about that. I know that's a little farther out, but tell us about that event.
Yeah, once a year we have the 48-hour build. It will be in October this year, the 27th. So it's to raise funds for our foundation. We don't have a particular skill that you have to build. Last year we had a theme, and it was "The Future is Now." So yeah, just how you want to fill that in. You could make any skill, because we have some people that wanted to join that make very small dioramas, like 187. So yeah, everyone that participated was very enthusiastic, and yeah, we were very happy that Doug was also involved. So this year we haven't decided yet what the topic will be, but yeah, we will get to that later this year. So yeah, if people want to join in the fall, they are very welcome.
I have my my future is now build here on my shelf, a little Macross figure. Cool. I absolutely loved building this. I was really sorry that I couldn't be there for the whole event, but I was there at the beginning, and I think I was right there just at the end. So, but I managed to build that little robot, and yeah, it's just brilliant, fantastic. Even if you can't join the entire weekend and you can only pop in here and there, between family commitments and things, it's absolutely brilliant. What date was that? Sorry,
the 27th of October we will start. Yeah, we don't have a clue what the topic will be, but if you have any ideas, they're always welcome. So yeah.
And the one before that was It Ain't Much. No, it ain't Dutch. No, what was it?
It ain't much if it ain't Dutch.
Yes, that's right.
Yeah.
And I found a mini art figure, a Napoleonic mini art figure of a part of the Dutch army, and I built that and painted that in the time period, and that was brilliant.
Yeah,
really good. Yeah.
The goal is never to finish the model, but just join in.
Yeah, just participate in the 48 hour.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Just have a lot of fun.
You don't have to finish it.
No, not at all. No, just participate. That's the important thing. The process, isn't it? The process of building and putting things together that is important.
And we also had an auction this last 48-hour build, and that was fantastic.
Mm. Yeah, we got lots of auctions for the 48 and 48 birthday bash as well. That's going to be really fun. Yeah, lots of companies have got involved lately, and the list is growing. I'm not exactly sure because Steph is running the side of the auction with James, and I'm not exactly sure what they have donated, but I do know that there is a recent Airfix kit on the cards for auction that has been signed by some of the designers. I know that because I have it. So I know that one for sure, but there are lots of companies that have got involved and are supporting us as well as you guys listening.
Okay, as we look to wrap up this session, love to give a shout out to where people can find you again. Malcolm, if you could just give a shout out where people could find you on social media, mention your website, that'd be awesome, and then I'd kick it over across the channel as well.
Okie dokie. So to get involved with the Birthday Bash, which is the 48 and 48, you can head over to the Model Officers Mess on Facebook. Just tap it into your search bar, or you can send an email to 48hour, which is HR, 48HR groupbuild@gmail.com, and let your intentions known if you have an item for auction, or if you want to find any more details. But yeah, it starts on the 10th of March at 7:30 p.m. no matter where you are in your time zone. So 10th of March, 7:30 p.m. Log on to the Model Officers Mess Facebook page, get yourself a 48-hour kit, and get ready for the fun. Models for Heroes is modelsforheroes.org.uk, and like I say, you can get all the details of how to donate and how to support us on there.
Awesome, thank you. And Stephan and Meranda?
You can find all the information about us and about a 48-hour build in the Netherlands at skillmodelsforvets.nl. And you can find us also on Facebook. Just type in Skill Models for Vets and you can find us. We have 3 different pages on Facebook, and Skill Models for Vets without anything else. That's our Facebook page from the foundation. And you can send us an email at skillmodelsforvets@gmail.com.
Well, again, this is going to drop on March 1st. So everybody mark your calendars for the weekend of March 10th through the 12th. Grab a 48 kit and be ready to go. And you're going to have a great time. You know, we've participated in multiples of these events, and they're always a highlight, something that we look forward to. We expect all the posse will be on from time to time. I'll be leading the Western U.S. Time zones, helping poor James in any way that I can for that, and then just building along and just enjoying everybody's company. So if you're listening to this and you're kind of thinking maybe I should do it, do it. It's a blast. You're going to have a good time. These gentlemen and this lady that we're with, I mean, they're friends, and this is what we literally have become friends over. Just encourage everybody to do that. Also in the fall, October 27th, that weekend, the Models for Veterans 48-hour group build. They're going to have a theme. It sounds like to be announced. And, that's going to be a lot of fun, and hopefully we can support them in that again. And that will be great. You 3, thank you so much on behalf of the posse and our listeners for what you do. It's so important. We really appreciate your time today, and look forward to seeing you online March 10th.
Yeah, thank you.
You're welcome.
Thanks so much for stopping by. This was fun.
All All right. Well, I hope you enjoyed that interview with Stephan and Meranda, and then also Malcolm. You know where we stand on this. We're huge supporters of the Models for Heroes and Models for Veterans groups. Please join us if you can, March 10th through the 12th. If you can't, please just make a donation. If you're in the UK or in the Netherlands and you can volunteer, you can do that as well. But please support what these groups are doing. It's fantastic, and it's amazing. You know what can happen to somebody who's struggling through this hobby. It does so much good, and it's amazing when you talk to these people. So anyway, appreciate them joining us. We're always up for a visit with Malcolm. That was a lot of fun, and really looking forward to the weekend after next. All right, and now for a second discussion topic, Mr. Mayberry.
All right, guys. So this came to me by listening to a couple of our old interviews from last couple of months. And also we'd lost power here a couple of weeks ago. So we live in a World Wide Web world where everything is online, and I probably can never say that word again. Don't worry about it. So back when I started Models, we didn't have these things. We had paper books and magazines. So I started to think, what do people still go back to magazines and books for referencing, for help on product building, or do they just go to the internet or watch Martin? Perfect example. Or do they jump back into books? I thought I would ask my co-host here, what do you do? So I'm going to start it off, if you guys don't mind. I do go back to books. I do find reading more helpful in my kind of building style. That's the way I am. I'm more of a visual person. So if I'm holding something, reading some physical words and stuff like that, I tend to absorb it more than I do with a video or a podcast or TikTok or whatever. So what books do I use? Of course, there's the FAQs that are out there from Ammo, Nick. They're fantastic. They're there's a series of them. They're all really good. The AK series also, their building series are fantastic. Their AK's got some really nice stuff too. The box sets where you can actually have everything in the box and it tells you exactly how to do it. But for me, I always go back to Douglas Lee. I'm a huge Douglas Lee fan. Douglas Lee is a great modeler. Born in Korea, moved to Canada, I believe. He's done some fantastic work. Just look up his name. Search it, Douglas Lee Model Builder on Google if you have to. But he's got some fantastic books. If you don't know what I'm talking about, there's some dioramas out there that are Doug's notoriously known for. One was a diorama where he built a Sherman going up the side of the Golan Heights in the 1967 war. On top, there was a trench. There was a Panzer IV from Syrians that were fantastic. If you look at that book, you will find everything you need to know about how to convert figures, how to paint figures, how to convert vehicles, how to paint those vehicles, how to make groundwork look right. That is one of the, for me, it's one of those books that it kind of slips by everybody. They don't really think about it as much, but called Douglas Lee's Military Dioramas. Another one he has in here is, if you don't know, is the Polish Lancers, which were supposedly, they can't confirm, but on horse attacking Panzer Is and Twos in Poland in 1939. It's a fantastic diorama, a lot of action. There's, vehicles shooting off to the sides, soldiers, horses. What can you add? It's just some great stuff. And I think my second favorite diorama in here is he's got a Russian IS-2 going through the streets of Berlin loaded down with a whole bunch of Russian troops on the back. It's like the zoo got blown up and there's like zebras and ostriches running by all these guys and they're just kind of trying to figure out what's going on. And it's a very, very interesting diorama. And this book is very helpful in many ways. Like things I said before, it helps me, it centers me when I want to work. If I'm scatterbrained, like Jensen was talking about earlier, sometimes you lose yourself in your ideas. This book helps me do that because it makes me focus on a certain subject, a certain diorama, and how he did certain work. And I'm a lot like Jensen in that way. I do get myself overwhelmed in a topic, but I would like to find out from everybody else what they use. If you don't use books, do you use the internet? What sites do you use to help you? I'm going to go to Scott first. What do you think, Scott?
I guess my answer is a little bit mixed. I generally tend to do digital on magazines now, just because I've kind of gotten to the point where I don't want big piles of magazines and those kind of things together in the corners of the house. And get on a lot of airplanes and do a lot of traveling, and I can, have, it doesn't matter how many, on my iPad at the same time, that I can go through and check out, and, you can blow it up, moving your fingers and stuff. And so I do a lot of that digitally, but, some of the things that you mentioned, the AK FAQ, I mean, that last sci-fi FAQ that Link did was just absolutely terrific. And I don't know that would be the same because it's quite a large book and a large format. So I'm not sure that would translate digitally, maybe as well. And then, I'll get a book every now and then. AK did a book recently that I picked up for a copy for myself and Aaron Cook on painting Japanese World War II armor subjects. And, picked that up. And I picked up some books kind of recently on modeling Russian paint schemes as well. So I still do buy books, but just not nearly as frequently as I used to. And so I guess I'm still sort of one toe on one side and one toe on the other still.
Yeah, I understand that, Scott. Space is an issue. I think that's an issue for a lot of us. So I can completely understand that. I appreciate that too. What about you, Jensen?
Yeah, so I have, in comparison to a lot of people, a relatively small collection of books and magazines and stuff. I do prefer having a physical copy of something like the FAQ, the diorama book. That's my holy grail book. I love getting that off the shelf and going to exactly where I need in the book, and then I always find what I need, and then I end up looking at the entire book again. It's one of those, I like having the book because it's the media is there for exactly what I need. I look in it, I look for the reference, I see what I need, and so on. If I go on the internet, I guarantee 100 times out of 100, I'll look for what I need, then I'm distracted because it's more than just the reference. It's like, oh, YouTube. If I can try and avoid getting to the computer or the tablet or the phone or whatever, it's probably for the best because I know I'll just find something else to distract myself. In a book, all the content is in the book. Everything I need is there. There's nothing else to divert me. Having physical copies of books and magazines.
Oh boy, it looks like we've lost Jensen completely.
Okay, so TJ, what about you?
Yeah, I love books, both physical and digital. I mean, the reality is some books you have no choice but to get it in digital. I have the I can't remember who makes it. It's the modeling Sherman's. Oh man, John knows because I think he has the paperback copy of it. I think is it AFE? I think it's AFE Modeler.
Yeah, the one we were talking about, Gunnar Baumer's. Yeah.
I think they brought it back and did another run of it, but I already had it in digital. That was my only choice. I wanted the book. I had to get it in digital. I have one of the FAQ books in digital too, but I mean, I love books. I have on the other side of this wall behind my monitor is my bookshelf, and it's the top two shelves are full of modeling books and reference books because I am lucky enough to own a copy of Son of Sherman that I got from Scott that I traded him for a model, and I made out like a bandit on that one.
Yeah, you did.
Because I was willing to fork over a lot of money. If you build Sherman tanks, you want to have the Son of Sherman book. It's probably the best Sherman book, reference book. It's a hefty tome as well, but man, yeah, it's out of print. Probably not going to come back.
That's true.
That's frustrating that they keep doing that, but I'm glad it's with you. You have a love for Sherman the Shermans that most people don't. So I'm glad you've got it. It's a good book, but yeah, I wish they just quit putting it out of print. You take it's like John's talked about, Duel in the Mist, and you get these books that, go out of production, and then you've got to, sell one of your children or get rid of one of the cars in the garage to afford them. It's just frustrating, but yeah, that's one of the problems if you're a collector of books that you can no longer get.
Yeah, that's a good point. Duel in the Mist is the first book. Very quick run, initial run. What was it, $80-$90 at the time when it first came out? Last time I looked, it was like 3,000 or 4,000 on eBay for a copy of it, first run. So it's crazy. You brought up some good points there, TJ, about some books you can't get in digital, or some books you can't get hard copies anymore. So, there is that you have to make that, that personal choice where you have to do that.
And some books you can't get at all. Like some of the Machine Krieger books I have oh, surprise, I got from you.
Yeah.
And I know I've mentioned more than once on this podcast, but those are some of my most prized possessions, because if you like Machine Krieger, that's really like probably now, that's where it was for an American at least, like you just didn't see that kind of stuff here. And the books are all in Japanese. They're Japanese books. And if you wanted to see Maschinen Krieger models, that's where you had to go to get them. Now, obviously, the internet exists, and we have Lincoln Wright putting out English language Maschinen Krieger book. So it's a little bit different, but man, those books, especially now, because if you're lucky enough to have them, which I am, they're easy to translate. In the early 2000s, yeah, it was hard because now I could just hover my phone over it and I can read exactly what it says. Pretty close. I mean, it's not perfect. Anyone that's used like the Google Translate knows it gets you in the ballpark.
Yeah.
Because there's a wealth of information where you get to see like Koyo Okuyama, how he designs it, how he paints his, even though he will always say he's not that good of a painter because he's not a modeler first. He's an artist first. Max is in those books a lot. He has his own style and he doesn't publish in English. So there's no way to see anything that he does or learn his process unless you have one of those books where he talks about his process and you're able to translate it into a language you speak.
Yeah, you're 100% right. Plus you get to see really young pictures of Link. So when he looked like he was 12 years old. So but yeah, you're right. There's some things out there you just can't get, and sometimes it's very hard. Great points. Doug, what about you?
I years and years ago, I mean, in the 90s, I had a collection of a lot of those squadron books, the walkarounds and the inaction books. Of late, I don't have a lot of new books. I have quite a few, some armor books. Can you believe it? But most of what I get will be online. I'll get references. You can do a search for just about anything and find good pictures and maybe histories and things like that. Really get some context into what you're building and why you're building it. I personally, if I could control how I got my media, it'd be in a physical form. I like holding a book in my hand. I don't listen to audiobooks because I almost am, maybe I'm old fashioned, but I almost refuse to because I want to hold that book in my hand and read it myself. And kind of goes for references for modeling. I would like to be able to set it up in front of me on my model desk so I can be looking at what I'm building as I'm building it. Yeah, I know you can do the same thing with a iPad or your smartphone or even a computer monitor. You can do all of that stuff, but I just like a physical copy of everything.
I completely understand. I mean, when you're working, and now the newly minted armor guy, before then you were a sci-fi guy. I'm a huge fan of Ralph McCurry and some of his books, his series books and stuff like that, where you're working on some of the early Star Wars ships, the B-wings, the X-wings, stuff like that. Having those original images and those ideas that he came with and the paint schemes that he thought of, it's great for me because you can look at that, and we have a good friend of the show and a good friend of mine out here in Southern California, Bao, who built the Blockade Runner and Nationals and all that, and he's the same way. He is a very in-depth person, and he will dive into books. He will dive into the computer. And we've talked about this before with him, and at least out here we have. And he's the same way. He's a devourer of it. He's a PhD professor at Caltech out here, so he knows what he's talking about. But for me, that's very important. Appreciated, Doug. What about you, JB?
Yeah, I think I echo everyone on here. I'm a lover of, I'm a lover of books. If you walk into my workshop or the office downstairs, it smells of leather-bound books, actually. I echo everything that's said. There's something tangible. It's interesting. I'll just acknowledge to our listeners, Jensen's internet cut out, unfortunately, because I really would like to ping his perspective on it because he's closer in age to a lot of the younger generation in modeling, and I'd be curious to know their perspective because I love it. I love physical books. It's interesting you bring up this topic because I was trying to remember what was the last modeling book I bought. I think I have to point to Rick Lawler's book almost a year ago. Yeah. It's interesting that the prevalency of modeling books has diminished a little bit, and it kind of in a way that I've heard from a few people, like the industry maybe is looking at going more digital, whether that's through, pocket mags, Patreon from individual creators, that is, or YouTube from bigger brands, because I've seen books I feel slowed down a little bit. I want to say 2 to 5 years ago, it was an onslaught and I loved it because I bought them all and went broke practically. something can't replace that just the physical notion of a book. And I'll be honest, I've had times where I have had a digital copy and I've bought a digital copy for cheap, and I've liked the material so much that I've actually bought the book because I want the book. And it's just a lot easier, at least I find sometimes, to have that book, have it open on your bench, as Doug had mentioned. And that's on the modeling side. On the reference side too, I think it's important to acknowledge that some reference books are the true source of information. I know in the day of the internet, everything can be found online, but a lot of the technical details, the minutia, the rivet counting, a lot of that can only still be found in books. And a lot of the books, if they're out of print, as mentioned before, Duel in the Mist, I'm lucky enough to have a copy. And then The Son of Sherman is a great example where, there's great Sherman minutia pages, but to cover what it covers, that's the only game in town. And Honeycutt's book is more about kind of the vehicle history as opposed to the minutia. Yeah, sometimes you can't replace that in the digital world. So I guess we're talking about two things: the access of information and the in how you like to absorb it, whether in print or digital. Now that said, I'll swing back the pendulum the other way and go, I love digital when I'm traveling. I'll have pocket mags open on my phone, either in a flight, in the back of an Uber. I waited for Thai food today and I pulled open and looked at the latest issue of AFE Modeler. So I think there's a world where both it can exist, but I think it's very important, at least from a mag perspective. And it's, Grant, this is a really great point that I hope we can talk a lot about more. A little foreshadowing for our guest that we're going to be interviewing soon is David Grummett from Military Modelcraft International. And he's the editor there, which is the #1 magazine in the world, I believe, for model military scale modeling, that is. And really curious to get his perspective, because I think the dynamics changing based on the just the demographics and the different mediums in which information can be consumed. So very interesting topic for me. I can go on both sides, and I hope that both sides can flourish, to be honest.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, like you say, it's changing. Everything changes. Downloading is a lot easier, a lot faster. It's easier I don't know if it's easier or not, but I think might be a little bit easier for a publisher to put out a digital book than it would be a hardcover book or whatever like that. You guys brought up some really, really good points, and I think you said earlier, JB, actually stuck out in my mind before this, was that you talked about Spencer Pollard, icon in the hobby. He has been putting out stuff on books for a long time, and still to this day does. And, he came from both realms, I think. That's another thing you have to think about too, is how is this all going to affect everything going forward?
But he's been transitioning to digital now.
Yeah, he is transitioning to digital. I will give you that too. And, it's hard. It's really hard and I really do wish Jensen was on this, because I would like to have gotten a younger person's idea on this whole concept. Everybody out there in the posse, tell me what you think. Tell us what you think about this. Do you like digital? Do you like hardcover books? Whatever. And I also think, one thing that was brought up by JB is some books that give you the specific of the vehicle. And I always think about, Son of Sherman's a good one, but also there's that T-34 book, the red one. I can't remember the name of it to save my life right now. That book I've seen that book, and that is a massive book of nothing but reference material. And then you don't get that. I'll guarantee you don't get that information, all of that information online. Is it good, bad? Is there a world in between? We're going to see both, or we're going to lose one? Who knows? But, like I said, I would like to hear from you guys outside in the posse. What do you do? What do you think? We have a lot of people that travel. We have a lot of pilots that are part of the posse. What do you think? We have a lot of people that work all kinds of, look at, TJ travels 4 days a week on the road down in North Carolina from his home. So, he's away a lot. What does he do? What does Martin do? How do you think about this?
What about the kind of the best of both worlds where you look something up digitally and then print it out for your use? Yeah. I'm thinking specifically of when Scott made his Slave One. Mm-hmm. When he printed out like reference photos, they weren't super high resolution. He printed them out big and he had them on the wall above his model bench. And was using those as a template to paint from.
Yeah, that's exactly. There's also people that I know, scratch builders that do the same thing. They'll get plans of the actual whatever they're building, aircraft, tank, like that. Put the blueprints, get them to like whatever scale they wanted to, tape it to their desk, and build the pieces to that template as they're building along. There's things like that too. It's a hybrid world. Again, thanks for everybody. I really do appreciate this. Kind of a topic offhand, but I hope you guys enjoyed it. Like I said, please let us know what you think.
Yeah, thanks, Grant. It was a good topic and interesting to hear everybody's responses. All right, here is that bonus interview with Zach Pease, one of our deputy marshals. Zach is a longtime supporter of the Plastic Posse. He talks about his modeling influences and what he likes to do. Think you're going to really enjoy it. So here is that interview.
I am happy to bring you a special interview with a really close friend of the podcast, a listener that has been around since day one. We have Zach Pease in the house. How are you today, Zach?
I'm doing great, John. Great to be here.
Awesome. So in addition to myself, we have Scott from the Triple P. How are you today, Scott?
Doing good. Welcome to the show, Zach.
Thanks for having me.
So I asked Zach on because a lot of the engagement that you've been doing with our group builds and on our page has been really just positive, inspirational, and then also motivating. And I thought it'd be great to have you on, talk to our listeners, learn a little bit about yourself, learn about your modeling, maybe a little personal life, and then, what's ahead of you as well in terms of the hobby. So taking a step back all the way to the beginning, could you tell our listeners a little about yourself?
Yeah. Geez, in terms of modeling, I think it's the same old story. I've been doing it forever. I started when I was a kid. I think I did my first model. Well, I didn't do it. I started with my dad. He bought me the old Revell Tirpitz. I was sick, and I think he wanted me to complain less. So he came home with the Revell Tirpitz, box scale Tirpitz, and we put it together at the kitchen table. And that led to each Christmas I would get a new ship kit, and I'd build it in an hour and a half. And it was all the old box scale Arizona, box scale Lionfish, Ward, the old classic Revell ship kits. And
that's awesome. I want to quick jump in. Some of our listeners, maybe the younger ones like Jackson and Zach, could you tell us what box scale is?
Oh, it was just whatever fit in the box. They designed the box before they designed the kit. And I think that progressed into doing some airplanes, and that was old Airfix. I think I did the old Airfix. I think it was Airfix. It was a Blenheim. And I did the one I always remember is I did the old Revell or Monogram P39. And I wanted to attach the drop tank and the bomb. So I just glued the bomb further back on the fuselage. I distinctly remember I started to take things a little more seriously, not like I do these days, of course, but I was in an old magazine stand in our local mall, and I picked up a copy of a Fine Scale Modeler. It was one of the World War II anniversary issues. It was the first time I'd ever read anything about modeling. Because it was just something I'd done at my homework desk or the kitchen table. I was reading an article about how they were improving the old Revell 32nd scale P40 and what a crappy kit it was. And I was like, oh, I always thought that was a really good kit. And I started looking, and it led to a subscription to Fine Scale Modeler. And, my dream back then was I wanted to be in the reader's gallery. But that was the first time I started building my skills. Was I was starting to read Fine Scale Modeler. I was starting to try and scratch build some stuff. I remember I cut up the old Revell B-52, the 72nd scale one, because they had an article about how to build a bomb bay for B-52. So I was going to throw out the plate that was in the bottom of that B-52 and build out the bomb bay. And I think I did, but I think the whole project fell down because I failed miserably to spray the Aztec, the Model Master paints from my Aztec airbrush. They just glopped up, and it was a mess. So I went like that for a while through high school building. I built a lot of hobbycraft, a lot of Revell, a lot of Airfix. And then same old story, late high school, going into college, I just fell away from it. I think I went back for a little while right at the end of college. On a whim, I bought the old Tamiya T-34 in 35th scale and built a North Korean version because I worked in college. I interned with a group called the Cold War International History Project, and we were doing primary source research on the Cold War. It was an awesome internship. I got to meet policymakers and spies and stuff from the Cold War. It was really cool. Read primary source documents from beyond the Iron Curtain. We did a big conference on the war in Afghanistan, and we brought in Anatoly Chernayev, who was one of the Gorbachev's foreign policy advisors, to talk about the war. and we had a whole bunch of CIA, DOD. I think we had an MI6 guy, former Mujahideen, all sitting around a table talking about the war for 2 days. It was really cool. We were the interns, so we were making a lot of the calls, and we were supposed to get this guy. He'd written a foreign policy journal article about the U.S. and Afghanistan in the 80s. He had been CIA station chief or something like that. We're trying to get him to come, and one of the interns calls the number we have for him, and they start off with like, "Who is this? How did you get this number? What are you looking for?" He says, "Well, we just want to get, this guy to come to our conference." And the person on the other end of the phone, like no joke, says, "I can neither confirm nor deny his existence," and hangs up the phone. And later that day, the guy calls us in the office and says, "Hey, I heard you guys were looking for me." So it was a great experience. It was a lot of fun. So I built that T-34 for the office before I left. Then I didn't come back to modeling right away. When I did start to come back after college, I remembered the ship kits that I used to do, and I wanted to do ships. And so I got into doing like 700 scale resin ships. And wow, I was in over my head because I hadn't modeled in a while, and I really hadn't ever modeled that complexly. And PE railings in 700 scale were not as much fun as I'd hoped they would be. But I participated on the old steelnavy.com and modelwarships.com for a while and posted some stuff up and made some friends. And also because I was only a recently graduated college student and I had like no money, and ship kits, it turned out, were pretty expensive. So I sort of drifted away from it for a little while again, and then came back to it serious probably round about when I got married in 2011. And then I've been going at it ever since. And my big thing has just been, I like aviation, and that's what got, aside from building the ship kits, what really fueled modeling for me was I've always loved aviation and history. I was a huge history buff as a kid. I think my dad gave me his old copy from the old landmark books of the Rise and Fall of Adolf Hitler when I was like second or third grade. And I thought that was just great. Like my friends were reading Tom Hardy and I'm reading The Rise and Fall of Adolf Hitler.
You're not alone there.
So my second grade teacher refused to believe that I was reading it. And I was like, I am. So I finally came back around to the to aviation modeling, and that was what I went really heavily into. And I got involved with modelingmadness.com, and I think I wrote a few articles for them, and I was actually looking at them the other day, and I was like, wow, I thought I was really good back then, but I wasn't as good as I thought I was. I think I wrote an article for them about the old Mach 2 X24B. I mean,
gosh.
I wouldn't give that kit to my worst enemy. And I asked for that kit for Christmas from my folks because my plan used to be if it was too expensive for me to buy, I would ask for it for Christmas. So it was an expensive kit because it was Mach 2 and they probably only made like 7 of them. And I remember I opened the box and it had the X24A and the X24B in it, but there was no way you could build both of them from the quality of the parts. Because I remember one of the landing gear wells, it was injection molded, but it was just filled with plastic. It was solid. I ended up scratch building some landing gear wells, and the interior was useless. I did some minor scratch building on that. I had some leftover PE from like I think it was a Hasegawa F-14, and I was like, whatever. I just want it to look like a cockpit. And I got a resin seat from a F-101 and put it in there because I knew the X-24 had a Weber seat, and so did the F-101. So I put it together. It looked pretty good considering what I started with. But I remember I was almost done with it. And I set it down to let the landing gear dry on top of a bottle of Model Master Chrome Silver that I didn't realize I had left open. So then I got a big silver ring on the bottom of it. So a few repaints later, I was done with it. I wrote up an article for Modeling Madness and thought it was great. And then I think I modeled for a while. I did a big project right after I was married. I did this Atelieri MH60. I did it like right after they got Bin Laden because I was inspired, and I'd always sort of liked 160th SOAR. And I said, I want to build a Special Ops Blackhawk, and I got that, and I got the Cobra Company resin set for it, and really went to town on it, and it came out pretty good. It's dusty and old now, but that was maybe the first kit that I really went to town on.
Sounds like maybe that was your level up build in your progression.
Yeah, I think that was. I mean, I've probably had some since, but that was my first big one. I cut the nose off. I cut the I scratch built the roof. I scratch built a fast rope system in there. I put some stowage in there. I got miniguns for the doors because Italy only gave you M60s. So it was a heck of a project, and I had a lot of fun doing it. And I think I remember I posted it up on at that time I was participating over on Aircraft Resource Center.
ARC, yep.
Yeah, ARC. I was part of their forum for a while. Yeah, so then I did that, and that was a lot of fun. And I sort of started taking it seriously. And round about when my daughter was born, I discovered Matt McDougall's blog. I was like, oh man, I like what this guy builds. I found out about black basing, and I thought that was great because ever since I was putzing around with this in high school, I wanted to be able to weather. But back then, I wasn't very good at it. I mean, I had some pastel crayons, and I would grind them up and just rub them all over my models and be like, it's weathered. The black basing, and I said, yeah, that's cool. I want to do that. And I started sort of playing at it, and I think I did my last article. I did 3 for Modeling Madness. I did the Zukimura P51, and I did it in Salvadoran markings. I thought I was black basing it, but I didn't have the whole thin layers thing down yet. So, but that was the first time I tried it. Really, once I discovered Doogs, I started to be like, wow, I could be better at this. I could keep working at this and get better at it. And I joined SMCG soon after that. It all blends together. It was either like 2016 or 18 that I joined SMCG and started, kind of looking at the builds there and deciding where I wanted to go with this. And I think, that gets me almost up today. It was weird. Everybody in the pandemic said, they got so much work done. I think I didn't build anything in 2020 that I finished because I actually went through a period and, well, it wasn't SMCG's fault. It was because I was looking at all these really good builds and I was like, I can do better. And I got stuck in this, this like cycle of playing with paint mules and trying to make this technique better and that technique better. And I just wasn't finishing anything. And finally I just had to walk away and say like, I gotta just build something simple and just finish it. And the beginning in 2021, I started to finish some stuff, and that was when I did my my Lanchester armored car. That I kind of considered my weathering level up build because that was the first time sort of all my weathering ideas kind of came together in one cohesive idea. It looked the way I wanted it to, and I didn't stop at SMCG. I just sort of stepped back and said, okay, these guys are good, and I want to be good, and I got to just not worry so much about how it comes out because if I finish stuff, I'll get better as I go. I've gone on from then, and I think I went through a period where you looked online and everybody was, in all the different groups, you would get people who were negative on builds and they were trying to give critique, but they weren't always the best at it. And I said, I don't want to be that guy. I want to be positive. I want to get better, and I want critique, but I also just want to be positive. And when you guys started up, I thought these guys are cool. They're positive about the hobby. They're excited. Listen to them, gonna have fun. And when I started participating in your group builds and the website, the Facebook group, I just said, it's positive. It's fun. It's a lot of fun. And that's sort of just how I got here.
Well, we're certainly happy to help you along the way. I'd love to go back and talk about, that instant, and I think a lot of modelers have experienced it. Certainly I have, when you're almost overwhelmed with being exposed to new techniques, new kits even. And you hold yourself to a higher standard that, dare I say, isn't achievable right away. And It's this like, it's almost analysis paralysis where you just get caught up in the moment. And I've certainly experienced that. And it's really interesting to hear you talk about it. And maybe to go back, talk about what was that first build that kind of brought you out of it? What was that slammer build that, I'm going to get this done and I'm going to go forward?
I really think it was that Lanchester armored car because it was something different. I had wanted to do armor before, but I would always start an armor kit and then not finish it. I think at one point, right after I was married, so it was 2012 or so, I built the old Tamiya Chieftain and I finished it. But I think I brush painted it and it was just something I did for fun. And I had never done a serious armor build. So I picked up the Lanchester because it was kind of cool. I had lived in Russia when I was in college, so I've always been interested in Russian history. I focused on Eastern Europe in college, so Russian subjects were cool. So I got the Russian Lanchester and I was like it's different. It's not an airplane. It's something I can just build. And I didn't worry about accuracy because I figured that Copper State put together a pretty good package, and B, I just wanted to finish something, so I didn't want to get caught up in all that. I knew there wasn't going to be a ton of web references on it because it's a World War I armored car from the Russian front, so the chances of there being a lot of photo references that were going to stop me in my tracks were pretty slim. And so I just said, all right, this thing's operating in the steppes of Russia in 1916. It's probably got rained on. It probably had mud. And I went from there and I said, what do I think this would look like? And I just had fun with it. I said, I want it to be green. I want it to be faded. I grabbed the 1930s protective green and said, all right, this is what I'm going to use for it. It's a little later than the vehicle, but it seemed right. So I used it and I just did it. And I went to town on it and had fun. And that got me through it. I mean, and like I said, I'm a huge history buff. So it was kind of hard for me to say I wasn't going to do a lot of references. And I think since that build, I have been a little careful about what I really look for in references. Like I want to know about my subjects, but sometimes I find it's a real balance about knowing about my subject and knowing too much about my subject. Because there's two subjects that I have trouble getting through every time I pick one up, and that's P-51s and F-14s. Because for whatever reason over the years, I've learned a lot about both of those aircraft. And I get stuck on what markings I want to do, or I'll choose a marking and decide that the kit doesn't have everything I need. Because the F-14 I really want to do is the VF-1 Wolfpack from the 1975 cruise that flew mid-cap for the evacuation of Saigon, which means getting the early beaver tail, which I now have because Phase Hanger did one in resin. But for years, it was like, I want to do this, and I don't feel like I have the skills to fully cut up the old Hasegawa kit and make the early beaver tail. And I think Hasegawa had an issue of it, but you couldn't get it for anything less than the mortgage on my house. So, I would just get caught up in that. It's funny because it really is. I mean, I've had reference photos that will just stop me and like stop a build and I'll go, oh, I can't do this. I got to figure out how to do this because this is how it was. One of the things that stopped me on P-51s for a while was the puttied wings. I said, oh, I want to putty my wings. Either one of two things would happen. Either I would fill in all the panel lines on the wings, and I think the first time I did it, my sanding discipline wasn't that great, and I obliterated the aileron hinges on the outer wings, and I was like, I don't want to be bothered to recreate those. So that killed that project. And then I think I did it once and I got it just the way I wanted it. And the primer layer reactivated the putty and all my panel lines came back. I think that P-51 flew across the room and I didn't build P-51s for about a year after that. I just said, I gotta take a break from P-51s. I mean, I have a whole drawer full of P-51 decals in different scales because I like the P-51. I like a lot of especially the later schemes. I'm sure anybody who's been watching my builds online says, man, he picks esoteric subjects. And I do. I don't think they're that esoteric, but I like my likes of history a lot of times. And my involvement with the Cold War means I like a lot of the little conflicts that happened after World War II. As fascinated as I am with World War II, I'm always interested in those little things that World War II essentially wrought afterwards. The world that World War II created, the small conflicts that came after. I did my undergraduate thesis on the French War in Indochina, specifically about how the U.S. looked at potentially using nuclear weapons to relieve the French garrison at Dien Bien Phu. It was seriously looked at. I did some research in the National Archives, and I actually found a document where I think it was Ridgway was saying, if we're going to look at intervening in Indochina with nuclear weapons, then Dien Bien Phu isn't the place to do it. The source of Viet Minh power is communist China. And he was basically advocating nuclear strikes on the supply bases in communist China in about 1954. It was one of those documents you run into where you're like, oh, that was talked about. As I've gone and read about these small conflicts, that's the stuff I want to model. So I get a Spitfire from Palestine in 1948. I just finished a Sherman from Uganda in 1978. And that's just where my mind runs. And so the P-51s I want to build are Latin American P-51s and Air Guard and Korea, wherever you find them after the war. Like earlier this year, I finished my Cuban P-47, and this is where my subjects run.
Yeah, that you mentioned a couple builds there. I'd like to double click on. One of them we'll just start off with is the P-47, the Cuban one. I was looking at that, right when you posted it, and I've gone back to it. It's a great looking model, and I love what you said. Esoteric subjects, that uniqueness where at a show or even online, the repetitiveness of
of that is not out there. I guess what I'm trying to say is you won't find something like it. You're going to have likely the only Cuban P-47 and certainly the only Ugandan Sherman out there. I think that's the only one I've ever seen built. I didn't even know the Ugandans used Shermans until you came into the group. And that's what I loved about it is you not only created an awesome model, but also shared the historical aspect of some of those lesser known nations that have operated these vehicles.
Yeah, I don't know. I've always just found that fun. I love Chuck Yeager's P-51 as much as anybody else. I mean, or a Jolly Rogers F-14. They're cool. But, I think I somewhere a long time ago, I said something about the 356 fighter group being overdone, and someone laughed at me and said, "Oh, overdone. No, yeah, a super important fighter group." And I'm like, yeah, they're great and they're cool. And the orange and yellow check noses look awesome, but there's so many other interesting subjects out there. And there's a lot of good stories to be told from these, more esoteric places that you can find subjects. The other subject I get caught up on is the Invader, the A-26. I went on a serious hunt to try and figure out how to do an accurate Invader firebomber, a force firebomber. And the problem is they have dual controls. Trying to get all the parts together in one box to do a dual control Invader with the early engines, not the counter Invader engines, is a challenge. So I've never quite got there, but the Invader's another rabbit hole I'll go down. And at one point I got really interested in the Invaders that were used by the Portuguese in the 70s in Angola. They actually ended up being abandoned there. They replaced their F-84s that were wearing out in Angola with Invaders because it was the only planes they could buy. There was an embargo because of Salazar's government, so no one was selling them new arms except for their NATO commitments, and they weren't allowed to use any of the NATO stuff in their empire. So they ended up buying these Invaders from either other nations who were still operating the Invader or on the private market, and they were figuring out how to get around the export restrictions to get them into Angola. And it involved some mercenary pilots, and it's just fascinating. And then I ran into the fact that Jan Zumbach, who was a Spitfire ace in World War II, went through some of the same machinations to get Invaders into Biafra in about 1967. And then he flew a converted French RB-26C, where they modified the radar nose from the French RB-66. The guy in the nose had a 50 cal, and Zumbach would just pull on a rope that was tied to the guy's arm on a strafing run, and that's when he would depress the triggers on the 50 cal.
Man, the ingenuity, it's really fascinating. It sounds a lot like when Israel was first established and they were trying to buy aircraft for their Air Force and nobody wanted to sell them aircraft. And, they had pilots going around the world and almost stealing aircraft. They'd pay for them, but they'd have to sneak them out of the country, bring them back to Israel. So that's pretty fascinating stuff, Zach.
Yeah, it's just fun little rabbit holes to go down. I'm that kind of history nerd.
Yeah, that's awesome. I love that little aspect of your modeling, not only, the finished result, but the personal stories that you've discovered in them. It's just really cool. And like you said, you don't see that every day. It's just really cool to hear that. Let's look forward with all these esoteric subjects. What's next on your list? What do you think is gonna, you just finished the Ugandan M4. So what's next?
I don't know. I was looking through my stash and wondering what I was going to do next. I've been having a lot of fun this year because I'm finishing projects. I think I finished the Ugandan M4 is number 5 for this year, and I think I finished 5 in total last year. So
that's awesome.
Yeah, no, it's been great. So I don't know. I mean, I have some armor projects that I think are fun that are kind of waiting in the wings. I have an Academy M1 I was going to do as one of the M1s that's in Poland right now. It's got the Crows system. I like the ones that are in Poland because a lot of the pictures you find have them in the cart green, but it's all banged up and you can see the desert tan underneath. And some of them have the desert tan road wheels and the green uppers, and I think they just offer a lot of interest. So
it's funny you mentioned that. I've had that exact kind of M1 in my mind since I saw probably the pics 2 or 3 years ago of them at Hohenfels in Germany, where they were doing training, and they have that cart green. It's like that really bright green. over the desert tan. And then even some of them had the white kind of whitewash stripes on the side skirts. And I thought that was like, I've never been super interested in the M1, but that's what draws me to certain subjects, probably just like you, is those unique paint schemes that are hard to come by essentially for such a common vehicle.
Yeah. I mean, I like the M1 as a tank. I think I've always thought it was really cool, but desert tan didn't excite me. As cool as the M1s with all the busk systems for urban warfare looks so cool, but I was like, but I don't want to. I was stuck on desert tan and dust. It didn't interest me that much. So when I found the pictures of the Europe deployed formerly desert M1s, I was like, now that's cool. So I've got that waiting in the wings. I've got an Invader. I've got the Tamiya M4 that's kind of not M4, the Tamiya the new F4 that's sitting over there, and I got a nice unique decal option for that. I'm going to do it as the F4G, which is distinct from the G that came later for the Air Force. The original Navy F4G had the auto landing system that would eventually go into the J. There were 1 or 2 squadrons that actually had them in a camouflage scheme, not go gray and white. It's all green camouflage with a smaller insignia like you would find on U.S. Air Force aircraft in the C scheme. So I thought that would be cool to do sort of a different, other than go gray and white, F4 Phantom. So that's kind of sitting out there. I don't know. I have some time away from home coming up because I just changed jobs. I'm going to have to be out in Buffalo for about 4 weeks to do some training.
There's a great hobby shop in Buffalo, Section 8 Hobbies. Go to it. One of the best on the East Coast. Justin, the owner, super nice guy, super easy location to get to. There's a great pub down the street. So definitely check out Section 8 Hobbies. They have a full stock of every paint you can imagine, kits that are, well sourced. And they even have, I think, a collection area where you can get good deals. And also the periodicals. Bottom line is they're really, really good. Highly recommended. If you're stuck in Buffalo, definitely hit that up. And then check out the boat museums as well.
I'll be sure to check that out. With that in mind, though, I think I might actually try, I never thought I'd say this, I might actually try figure, because I'm going to have to find something to occupy myself in a hotel room for a few nights. So maybe I'll give a figure a shot and see how that goes.
Another suggestion besides painting a figure is grab yourself a Bandai Star Wars kit or a Gundam. Those tend to lend themselves to hotel building pretty well.
Yeah, while I was doing that Star Wars LAAT, I mostly built a Bandai X-Wing because I was stoked for Star Wars. And I led to me buying another Resistance X-Wing. So yeah, I had thought about taking that too.
Yeah, going back to your Star Wars build, I absolutely love that Legion's Imperial TIE fighter looking thing. I forget the acronym you just mentioned, but you did a really nice job on that.
Yeah, I had a blast on that. It was a really nice kit. I mean, it was better than I expected. Maybe because I didn't know what to expect, because I'd never done a wargaming kit ever. And it was thanks to you guys I even knew about it, because I think John Bias came on the show and talked about it. And then I ended up going over and watching John Bias's build videos on it and said, it looks like fun. I like Star Wars, and that's a little different. And honestly, some of the Bandai stuff's been hard to find lately. So I grabbed that and just, it was a blast. It was a really fun kit.
Another good reference is check out Enrique's The Race for Terra channel over on YouTube. He does a lot of Star Wars Legion, and it's really, really great. He's kind of, sort of half armor, half sci-fi. He does a great job. It's an awesome channel. Check it out.
Yeah, I'll check that out. I remember when he was on the show too, because he built one of my subjects. I just ordered the War Slugs Rolls-Royce armored car because I want to do an Irish armored car, kind of like the one Enrique did. So
yeah, that's awesome. Going back, those Legion kits are great. I have a couple of them. Scott's built them, and like you said, it's kind of like John Bias turned it on to us, and then we've certainly spent a lot of our money on them because they're just fun. And like you, I had no idea what to expect, and genuinely was surprised at the quality of the kit. And it's honestly kind of inspired me to play the game at some point too, because it's just really cool.
Yeah, like I think they do that occupier tank from Rogue One. I kind of really want to pick one of those up because that seems like it might be a lot of fun.
That was my first one I bought. I actually bought it with Scott when he came and visited the first time at Colpar, and you should get it because there's like 7 parts in it, and it comes practically pre-built, and you can paint it, and
go to town. And I believe Enrique built one as well, Scott. There's one on his channel that's really well done.
Yeah, he did. It was a really great build. And Zach, I don't know if you remember, but we did that 48 and 48 group build, and both John and I did Legion kits for that. Man, it was awesome.
Yeah, that was a lot of fun. I'll probably be doing more because that was just a lot of fun, and they offer some subjects you can't find elsewhere. So
Zach, maybe let's take a turn. We've talked about the models that you enjoy building, those esoteric subjects, and you hinted on it a little bit. When you think about scale modeling, when you want to grow, when you want to advance your skill set and techniques, where do you draw inspiration from? Who are those people that you're constantly kind of looking at, seeing what they're doing, and like just feeling like maybe you should try to pull it off?
I mean, I think the first one, and I hinted at it, was Matt McDougall, because he was one of the first people who drew me into his YouTube channel and blog, and I was like, yeah, I want to do that. I don't remember which build I started picking him up on, but I like his Corsair build. I loved, and his P40, his French P47 build was great. And everything, I've liked everything he's done. So I always look at him for some inspiration. And then, there's a lot of places I go. I like LPJ Models and James Can. I always look at his stuff, and that's pretty inspiring. Also, it always comes out of my reading. I'm a big reader. I'm a big history reader. So I'll pick up a snippet of something and go, oh yeah, that'd be really cool. That'd be really cool to do that. And I'll start looking for photos and seeing if I can, because while I try to limit my references to a certain extent, I want to see if I can find some photos out there so I can get some sense of what these things look like, either in theater or just in general. It's funny. I was listening to your last episode yesterday, and you guys were talking about a Peshmerga Humvee with a DSHK, and I was like, that sounds cool. I think that's something I might want to look at too, and because just that takes it out of your standard Humvee and makes it a little more fun. And I was searching on that earlier today, and I found that there were some Peshmerga ones with Dashushkas, but also some Ukrainian ones, and that felt kind of cool too. So I look around, and I think, a lot of the armor modelers have given me a lot of inspiration on my weathering skills. I always like looking at Adam Wilder's stuff, Mike Rinaldi's stuff, Uncle Night Shift. All those guys have been inspirations at one time or another. If not for specific subjects, then for, how can I make things look cool and dirty like they do?
For sure. I mean, you've mentioned all the people that I certainly look up to as well. And, it's just, there are some people that can really pull it off and have the power to influence and drive people. And those are the ones that you mentioned.
I was going to just do the Tamiya M1 Super Sherman, because a lot of the Ugandan M1s were VVSS suspension, and they were just Israeli M1 Super Shermans, but they had some other M1s that had the HVSS, and I said, wow, that's that much cooler. So I ended up buying the M51 kit and just blending the two of them together and sort of ended up with it. So
You mentioned some of your influences. With your interest in history, I'm wondering, have modelers more like Steve Zaloga or Shep Payne who tend to really, use the history of that vehicle to tie their builds to? Have they been a big influence on your work?
I mean, I think Shep Payne probably was, just as a motivation early on, because buying the old monogram kits with the Shep Payne inserts and the like, for sure. I think I dreamed of doing dioramas like Shep Payne, but in my adult modeling life, I've always shied away from figures, because I'm sure I've posted it up on the group more than once that my figures look like refugees from a fire at Madame Tussauds, which might be an exaggeration, but I've never been really confident in my figures. So, but yeah, I mean, I think that if I ever had the eye that Shep Payne had to make a diorama, I'd be head over heels. And for whatever reason, I've always known about Steve Zaloga, and I think his models are great, but he hasn't been a huge influence on me. I mean, I love his work. I think he's just flown a little under the radar on the stuff I'm looking at, because I have at different times been into World War II and then into the Cold War, and I think at the times I was into World War II, I just wasn't looking at Steve Zaloga's stuff for whatever reason.
Yeah, it's interesting. He'll take vehicles that aren't usually available in a standard injection molded kit, or he'll take a variant, that requires a conversion. But yeah, and I think a lot of his builds he does just as photo material for the covers of his books. When we talked to him, he kind of indicated that he loved, he'll do like a duplex drive Sherman or whatever, French subjects, or back before they were kind of more cool, a lot of obscure obscure Russian subjects, but yeah, I've always thought that he was, really into the sort of the research that leads to the scale model approach.
Yeah. I mean, in a lot of my modeling is, I don't know, how do I want to say it? I think it's atmospheric. I get interested in something and then I sort of want to have a tangible piece of it. Sort of like my MH60 build I was talking about. I had read Black Hawk Down and then seen the movie. And then when the Bin Laden capture came in, I sort of was just re-engaged with being interested in the 160th SOAR. And I said, I want to have a piece of that. I want to build it. I want to. It was how I became familiar with the subject, sort of, and that was how I engage with some of my love of history. Is I get interested in a period and then I want to engage with it. So then I choose a subject, and that's sort of just how I've always gone about it. One of the reasons I wanted to do the B-52 back in the day was because I was always fascinated by the nuclear forces. I mean, both because they had a lot of cool airplanes and because they were sort of terrifying in their power. It just always fascinated me. And so I wanted to build a B-52 because I wanted to have a piece of sack right there in my, hanging from my ceiling. That's just, it's how my head works for history and for modeling.
No, I think you're really echoing how a lot of people feel about it. And certainly it's, that's just how it works sometimes. Let's talk about looking forward again. One of the questions we love to ask people is, what is your magnum opus project? And, what's that project that you've had in your mind that you want to pull off someday? It could be a vehicle, it could be a diorama, but tell us what that is for you, Zach. It's
funny because I think someone is doing it right now, and it's been probably my magnum opus since Edouard released the kit in the 90s. And that, I think, is it Tony Bell who's doing the B-29 mothership and X1, I think, over on SMCG.
Yeah, I believe you are right. Yep.
That has always been a build I wanted to do, was to take the monogram B-29, modify it into the mothership for the Mach 1 flight for the X1. Because growing up, there was, and it's still one of my favorite movies, was The Right Stuff. Even now, my daughter, who's 6, is super into space and aviation, and I've been trying to get her to ask me for a stick of Beemans for months.
I was just going to say, you got to have your Beemans ready.
And she looks at me and she's like, what are you talking about? So I think, I really want to do that, and I've never quite got to the point where I feel like I want to start cutting up that big monogram B-29.
Rescribing.
Yeah, and finding the decals or the masks and getting that thing done, because
natural metal. Whew.
Yeah. And more than just doing the B-29 and the mothership, I kind of would love to do like an airfield diorama where the X1 is in that depression.
You gotta Yeah,
yeah, exactly. And them loading it in, and I think that would be awesome. And maybe on the same level would be, and this is just totally pie in the sky, because if I could get the is it HPH who does the 48 scale B-52?
Yeah.
And do an X-15 with that would be awesome.
Balls 8.
Jeez. Wow, that would be amazing.
But I would need to put an addition on my house to do that.
Yeah, you might need to drain some of those kids' college funds for that B-52 kit too.
Yeah, I know. And while my wife is totally supportive of my hobbies, I don't know that she'd be all that excited for that B-52 kit price tag.
Yeah, even the monogram one, I can maybe think of maybe once seeing it built with the X-15. It's not a common subject because it is, Balls 8 has, that natural metal white finish.
Yeah.
Essentially it's 2 kits in one. And then I don't even know the monogram kit. The wings are the anhedral dihedral, I think, is wrong on it. That you kind of, was it molded in flight?
I think it was.
And you have to cut them and make them droop essentially a little bit more realistically. So it's certainly not an easy build, but I actually have that monogram kit. It was part of my dad's collection. That's one of them I kept because the box art just sings to you. The B-52 is coming at you with the X-15 on the wing. It's just such a unique subject. And like you said, it'd be cool to not only have the 29 with the X-1, but also Balls 8 with the X-15. I think that would just be a good duo. You'd probably have to take over, wait until your kids move out to college, then you can have your own display room museum in their bedroom. But it's such a unique subject that flight test isn't often represented at shows, and goes back to your esoteric subjects that and love.
Yeah, I mean, and flight test is something I've always been fascinated with, and that's just another rabbit hole of like real space and flight test. And the kits in that realm are not always that great. That Monogram B-52 is a classic kit, and it was great in its day, but to bring it up to modern standards is just it's a lot of work.
Tons of work.
And that goes for a lot of the X-15 kits. And I gave up I had the 32nd scale special hobby X-15-1 with the two XLR-11 engines.
Yeah.
And then I bought the X-15A2 because my intention was that I was going to blend the two together to get an X-15-1 with the XLR-99. But that was another one where I had reference overload. I had the Hypersonic, which if you're ever reading about the X-15, it's the best book out there. And I mean, I was looking up which flight I was going to build and what experiments it was carrying and how I was going to get there. And I just said, I'm never going to get through this build because I can't even decide, do I want to do an Neil Armstrong flight? Do I want to do a Scott Crossfield flight? Or, this Bob Rushworth flight went into space. I want to do that one. Like, oh man, I got so mired in my references. So I have the special hobby 48 scale X-15A2 in the closet, and I'll get it built, but it's another one where I'm going to have to turn my mind off a little bit because I love flight test and I love real space. And it's just, I had the Monogram space shuttle, the 144th scale one, which is not the best kit, but you can work with it. And I had the idea that I was going to scratch build the mobile launch platform. I wasn't so ambitious that I was going to do the crawler. I was just going to do the mobile launch platform in the hard down. And a lot of styrene later, I determined that I had bitten off a lot more than I could chew in my skill set at that time. But that's another one that could be a magnum opus that I might circle back to someday, is doing a space shuttle. I really would like to model a STS-1 because I've always been a big John Young and Bob Crippen fan.
Speaking of space shuttles, you got to be following James Chung's space shuttle.
Oh yes. That's amazing. Some amazing work. He's scribing in all the tiles. He's a madman.
Oh yeah, it goes back to like it's a magnum opus project. It's unbelievable, and the amount of information that he shares, and very similar to yourself in a case where the history and the subject and the modeling kind of all it's just a lot, and it's honestly you could write a book on it, the space shuttle itself, by the amount of research he's doing.
James is a madman, but in all the best kind of ways. Its work is definitely pretty inspiring for sure. After the projects that you have right now, anything in the short term that you've defined enough that you can say, these are going to be on the bench and moving forward?
I think before the end of the year, I'm going to tackle the new Edouard Spitfire 5C. I have their dual combo with the American Spitfires. So one of those is going to emerge, though what I'm thinking I'm going to do with at least one of the kits is to do a Greek Air Force Spitfire from immediate post-war period, because there's a few neat markings you can do with those. I have, randomly, I have this old Italieri fire Jeep. That's not a great kit, but I just thought it would be fun to do it up as like a wildland firefighting Jeep. I got some generic fire department decals to throw on it, and I might just do that up before the year's out and just have it be something fun and civilian. I never do much civilian stuff, so the Jeep's so cool, but in 35th scale it's it's like that big. So I think in 16th scale would be a great scale to do one in. So
well, Scott, any other questions that we should ask Zach? This has been a really great time getting to know you, Zach, and we really appreciate kind of the stories that you've shared, how you came into the hobby, what interests you in terms of esoteric subjects, showing us what inspires you today, and then ultimately, what are some of those cool magnum opus projects? And
yeah, Zach, I would just say you've been a great member of our Posse community. You participated in our group builds and taken part in the group discussion. Is there anything you'd like to say to the people out there in the Posse?
They're a great group. It's been great to be involved with them. And you guys have created that group, and it's just been great. I was looking for a real positive place to land and share my builds, and it's just been great. I've connected with a bunch of guys, and I'll be honest, I haven't totally gotten used to people complimenting my builds in the way they have in recent builds, because I still think of myself as just working on models and looking up to other modelers. So it's been great. It's been a great group, and I'm going to keep participating. And thank you guys for creating it and for creating this podcast. And it's been great. It was great to listen to through the pandemic, sort of keep the mojo going and just sort of have that place to go. And
I appreciate that you get the spirit of where we're coming from. There's a lot of places to be inspired on the internet and on social media. And there's a lot of places where, like you said, you can go get some feedback, some of it a little bit more constructive criticism based. I think the main thing is you got to remember we should be having a good time as well. And then improvement is great. Let's build each other up. There's enough out there in the world that, where we can tear each other down.
Yeah, I mean, it's been great, and then I'm flattered you guys had me on, and I just come in and I do it. I do it to zone out. I just went through a period of really tough work stress, and it was just what I've been doing to chill out. So it's been fun to connect with everybody. So, and I think you can improve and have a good time and be positive all at the same time. So
for sure. So Zach, thank you again for taking the time to talk to us. It's been a great getting to know you. And again, from the bottom of our hearts, thank you for being such a strong member of the community, sharing your work, being positive, and just contributing. I think that's the most important thing, is being present, helping build what you're a part of, and that experience and positive atmosphere and a place where people can come and just have fun. So thank you again for all that you do. And we look forward to what comes next.
Thanks. And thanks for having me. It's been a blast.
Yeah. Thanks, Zach. We've had a lot of fun, and we'll talk with you soon.
All right. Take care, guys. Thanks.
Thank you.
John, tell our listeners how they can obtain some Plastic Posse merch.
Yeah, thanks, Scott. So just a reminder to our friendly listeners, if you want to rep the Posse at the show, at your local pub, at the hobby shop, you can check out our merch page. Many of you have already, and we are super thankful for it. You've picked up coffee mugs, t-shirts, jumpers, or even our official lounge trousers. You can order all of your stylish Plastic Posse merch on our website at plastic-posse-podcast.creator-spring.com. We'll have that in the show notes. Please rep it. If we see you at a show, we'll give you some swag with it on. So thank you all.
All right. Thanks, JB. Thanks, everybody. Well, this has been another great episode. Just one more reminder about the 48 and 48 Model Officers Birthday Batch online build for Models for Heroes, running the end of next weekend, March 10th, 11th, and 12th. Please join us wherever you're at in the world. It's going to be rolling time zones. It's going to be a lot of fun. And if nothing else, it's just a good excuse to hop on and build models for a couple of days. So again, please join us. Please give, if you can, to Malcolm and his organization. They do amazing work, and it's a great cause. We want to thank all of you for listening to us. Thank you so much. The feedback that we get, the numbers, our Patreon supporters, you guys are just have put your full support behind our show, and you tell us what you think of what we do, and we're very, very grateful to everybody out there in the posse. We'll be back in 2 weeks with another episode. Remember, you can send feedback on this episode or any other episode to plasticpossepodcast@gmail.com. Doug loves to get feedback, autograph pictures, all that stuff. He loves it. If you haven't joined the Plastic Posse group page on Facebook, please head on over and join the group. We've got almost 4,000 members. The community just continues to grow. You're going to be able to interact with a lot of great modelers and a whole range of people, from beginners to really, really excellent modelers. So I guess all that's left to say is we'll see you all again in 2 weeks. And you know what they say, yeehaw!
Before we close out tonight, I'd love to give a shout out to our Posse Outriders. If you would like to support the Triple P and become a Plastic Posse Outrider, go to our Patreon page at www.patreon.com/plasticpossepodcast and set up a recurring donation there. This helps offset the cost bringing you the Triple P every 2 weeks. There are 3 different tiers of support starting at just $1. Our amazing deputy marshals. Special shout out goes to Ryan Smith, Terry Wilkinson, Chris Lovewell, Andy Halis, Ethan Eidmill, Bruce the Model Noob, Steve Baker, Eric DeGleesh, Joe Porche, Graham Pearson, Patrick Brown, Steve Shaper, Jay Kidd, Paul Burdett, Brandon Gentry, Robert Klein, Mark Ewing, Ted Kalahara, Josh Orr, John Bryant, Scale Model Hanger, Toadman, Model Doc, Doug Reed, Greg James, Les Porcala, B Colt 1911, John Everett, Josh Buck, Black Full Model Works, Thomas Bannock, Mark Bradley, Zach Pease, Jill Munson, Eric Brubaker, Jeremy Moore, DB Scale Model Studio, Matt Johnston, Jeremy Cal, Jared Cal, Jeremy Elliott, Mike Talley, Previous Seat, Mediocre, Middle-Aged Modeler, Dan Knopfel, and JC Osborne. Thank you, gentlemen. Really appreciate your support.
And a tip of the hat to our excellent posse foreman. We have Eric, John, Jeremy, Cliff, Rick, Eric, Mike, Alex, Benjamin, Craig, Papa Steve, Logan, Red Beach One, MD Models, The Voice of Bob, JV, Pete, Toby, Matters of Scale, Damian, Kieran, Cody, Papa Mike Charlie, Tim, Forrest Go 73, Nuke Man Mike, Greg, JK, MAK Armor, Ash, Irish Pat, Paul, What's the Deal with Eyebones Models, Mr. Grizz, Jackson, Chris, Lee, Jamie, and Steve.
Our Posse Outriders, including our newest Outrider, Steve Ankin. Also, we are asking our Posse members a favor. Please consider posting a review of the Triple P on the podcast platform you use to listen to our podcast and on Facebook. Each 5-star review will help our other modelers find the Plastic Posse. Also, if you haven't already, please join our Plastic Posse group on Facebook. It's a great place for the community to interact, post build pics, and ask questions, or just hang out.
Great yeehaw.
Yeah, it wasn't too good. I'm no Doug Smith.
You're Doug tonight. D-U-G.
You're Doug. You're Doug. And you're out of here. All right, Mr. Bonani, let's talk cookies.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's the most important discussion of the day. I posted right before our episode went live. So for our listeners, that's on February 10th. A lot of you contributed already. I'll say it's one of the most active posts on the Plastic Posse. And the simple question is, what's your favorite Girl Scout cookie?
Wow.
Thin Mints.
Yeah.
Frozen?
Frozen. Yeah.
Yeah, buddy.
Frozen and a glass of milk.
Oh.
So question then, have you tried the new ones? It happened. I think the new one came last year. There was a lemon cookie. Oh, it's good. I forget the name of it off the top of my head. I gotta look it up.
I have not, but I'm not a lemon cookie fan of like any variety. I like Do-si-dos as well.
Okay. So
wait, that's the peanut butter one, right?
Yes.
I think so. Whatever the peanut butter one is, the sandwich cookie, I like that one too because I love peanut butter.
Yeah, I'm actually not a Girl Scout cookie fan. Just Thin Mints are okay, I've had them and everything, but just I've never had them a lot, but
Scott, it's a charity. What the hell, man?
I know.
Jesus.
I know. I guess I just don't know enough Girl Scouts or whatever. But man, I'll tell you, like TJ said, I love peanut butter, man. A classic peanut butter cookie. Man, my grandma used to make those and pull them out of the oven hot. She'd take her, when she was putting them on the tray, she'd take her fork and make the marks in them, just, oh man, is there anything better than a warm right out of the oven peanut butter cookie?
Yeah, good point. I was just looking it up, man. They've got 13 different cookies now.
Yeah, they've expanded.
Yeah, they've got the lemonades and the lemon ups. I think the lemon ups are the new ones we just talked about.
So good. So good.
And they have a raspberry rally, which I'm sorry, not for me. No, sorry. But go ahead.
No, you were talking, Greg.
I like the caramel delights, the s'mores ones. Those are the circled one, like small donuts. Those are good.
Those are pretty good.
Yeah.
I am personally a fan of Samoa's.
Yeah.
The chocolate coconut cookies.
Yep.
And I'm not a huge coconut person.
I agree.
Taste, consistency.
I agree.
Sorry, gotta quote Tallahassee there.
Yeah.
Yeah, I love them. I absolutely love those
So what's really dangerous, Girl Scouts now accept plastic. So, you know, you we're walking in our neighborhood and you see them posted up at the community coffee shop, and we're like, well, I guess we got to buy some. And then $75 later, they give you a bag once you spend a certain amount, and it's a reusable bag. So we did our first run this past week. So I'm a huge fan. I was going to bring up another cookie. They are a national chain here in America. I have become to love them. Crumble.
Oh yeah.
Don't even get me started on those.
Oh my goodness. Yeah, they, you know, going back to our peanut butter thing, they make I don't remember what it's called, but they make a peanut butter cookie that's got a molten peanut butter center inside of it. It's like, this is ridiculous. It's so good.
Just freaking evil is what it is.
It's dangerous. One is literally 2 miles from my house, and I have the app on my phone, and it's right next to Panda Express as well. So
man,
it's like double trouble with Beijing beef and orange chicken, and then I head over to Crumble. And pick up a little 4-pack. And I tell you what, their marketing is on point. Their app is great. The fresh cookies and the warmth when you pick up the box. And then when, you know, you're at work, somebody had a birthday this week and they had the dozen pack. I'm like, oh man, there's one which was it was animal cracker, but the dipped animal crackers in the yogurt.
Oh man, they make.
Wow,
gosh.
I never had that one before. Oh man, I about bought a dozen of them right then and there. Holy cow! That's why I don't wear skinny jeans, because let's just be honest, Crumble.
Holy cow, and they are massive. I mean, one cookie can feed a whole family.
Yeah.
They are huge.
When I got a new job, my mom bought me a dozen, and Lindsay and I can only eat so many, but I still have a couple in the freezer. So they're so good. So good.
You know, John, you were mentioning the lemon cookie. You know, they make a Crumble makes a lemon cookie that's just unbelievable, out of this world.
I don't know what it is. I really never liked lemon. Gosh, even 5-6 years ago. But my palate has evolved, I guess. And I'm a lemon guy. I will crush anything lemon. It's weird.
There's a local bakery out here, just a local one, but they use those lemon cookies, the original lemon cookies from Girl Scouts, and they make their pie crust lemon meringue pie. They use the cookies as the pie crust. They crush them up and everything.
That's evil. Oh my gosh.
I'd sell my kidneys. I swear to God.
So another cookie I like, maybe we can have them on the Plastic Posse table. My in-laws made funfetti cookies for me the last time I was over. Pretty good. So might find its way to the Commies Fest table.
Oh.
I noticed on the Commies Fest page that they mentioned that we would be coming again, and John and I were talking about it. I say, yeah, man, we brought funfetti. Of course they want to know if we're coming again. We brought cupcakes with us.
Exactly, man. Exactly. I'm excited for this year. They're going to have a barbecue food truck. They even talked about a dessert truck there, but breakfast will be funfetti. So come early, leave happy.
Yeah. The only model show where you have to unbuckle your belt before you leave. I swear to God.
Are Mark and Jamie going to be doing anything there, or do you know?
Yeah, I think they are. I offered some table space because we have 2 vendor tables there, and really it's just about promoting. Scott, if you want to sell some stuff, feel free to bring it over. But we'll have funfetti cupcakes. We'll have tank craft stuff. If Josh and you want to bring stuff over to sell, and then I also offered table space to Mark and Jamie. Nice. To bring some dry rub, some barbecue sauce. Their stuff's really good,
and they're nice people, fantastic people.
Mark's okay.
He's okay.
He's all right. He's okay guy.
He's all right.
Yeah, it should be a great time, and I cannot wait.
I will never forget Jensen's eyes when she gave him that bag of cookies.
Oh my gosh!
Last year, that was fantastic.
It was almost as good as that kid that won that ship model, and when he went up to pick it up, the box was bigger than he was. I'll never forget the look on his face, man. He was just like, oh.
And a bear hug that thing back to the table. That was great.
Yeah, the commies do a great job. It's going to be a lot of fun.
Maybe Brian will win something this year. Sorry, Brian. Sorry, Brian.
Jeez. Grant going savage mode.
I don't know. That just came out of nowhere. I'm sorry.
It's all right. Yeah, it should be a good time. Oh, Scott, anything else?
I don't know. Any other cookies? Cowboy cookies. Doug, you and Julie seem to have some.
Oh, that's right.
Guys,
Doug's got
those
really good
those cookies are actually my mom's. I got those from my mom. Those were her recipes. So, I mean, I made them when I brought them, but that recipe was one I grew up with, both of them. Yeah, I've always enjoyed making both. The Ranger cookies is what we call the one with the cornflakes in them, which always surprises people because they just don't. Cornflakes in a cookie doesn't sound great, but it really works.
Oh, they're fantastic.
Our good friends Dan and Carrie Nofel, they make some pretty serious cookies as well. You know, they bring them to the show and drop some off with us. And oh man, those are good. Which cat you got there, TJ?
I got nothing.
Oh,
Kylo wasn't here, but
I thought I saw a tail a minute ago.
Yeah, he was up here, but he ran off somewhere.
Kylo.
Yeah.
He was not doing near the devastation he was doing last Friday. Climbing on your model box, looking for Q-tips.
That and plastic. He likes to chew like clear cellophane. So I've got more than a couple sprues that have bite marks in them. I'm going to go ahead and bite this.
That's mine.
Oh, bastard.